Chapter 2014. Pan Qian thought that it was just an ordinary sports car. However, Pan Qian did not expect the Lamborghini to be. That Lamborghini is a global limited edition. And it's a super sports car that's only sold in the world. Pan Qian's eyes widened in shock as she exclaimed. Everyone around, including Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and class monitor Lu Junlin, gasped in shock when they heard Chu Ning's words. How much money would it take to afford it? Pan Qian mumbled blankly. Do you think you can afford a limited edition sports car just because you're rich? So many business tycoons have offered sky-high prices to buy a limited edition sports car, but they all returned empty-handed. You're really stupid. Your knowledge is limited to school. How unsophisticated. Chu Ning's mouth was not for show. She had bullied Chu Xiangnan for the past 2 years. When she heard Pan Qian say that Yun Jian was a kept woman, Chu Ning almost rushed over to beat her up. In fact, Yun Jian had already kept her butterfly knife when Mo Bufan, Chu Ning, and the others appeared. After being attacked by Chu Ning for a while, Pan Qian was angry and resentful. However, other than being angry, Pan Qian could not say a word. Her face turned pale and her eyes were wide open. She looked like she was scared to death. All right, don't talk nonsense with such ignorant people. Yun Jian, we haven't seen each other in so long. Let's go out for a gathering. Jiang Weiwei took over Chu Ning's words and said to Yun Jian. The 7 members of Team Monarch were now a team and had great chemistry. Yun Jian nodded. She put one hand in her trouser pocket and walked lazily to the entrance of the gym. Just as she reached the entrance, Yun Jian turned around and looked at the dumbfounded class monitor Lu Junlin. She said, I'll take a leave of absence. I won't be joining the gathering. With that, Yun Jian turned around and faced Song Yu and the others with her back. She reached out her other hand that was not in her trouser pocket and waved at Chu Ning and the others. The 7 of them then walked out of the door. Yun Jian did not wait for class monitor Lu Junlin's permission. Yun Jian had always done things her own way, and no one could stop her. Pan Qian heaved a sigh of relief and Yun Jian's figure disappeared before everyone's eyes. Then, she stared at the place where Yun Jian disappeared and said fiercely, What's so great about having a rich boyfriend? Even if you have a rich boyfriend, your boyfriend will definitely be short, fat, ugly, short and fat. Why are you so cocky? Pan Qian suddenly shouted in the direction where Yun Jian had left. Just like Brother Kai from the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. His family was so rich that he could give girls gold necklaces and silver rings, but he was still an ugly man. God, everything is fair. Pan Qian thought that Yun Jian's man was also an ugly man. Moreover, he was very fat and ugly. This kind of man was rich. Most of his money came from his family. Since he was young, he had raised himself to be fair and plump. He was so fat that one could not bear to look at him directly. And he especially liked to steal women. At the thought of this, Pan Qian felt that her envy towards Yun Jian's rich boyfriend had lessened by a lot. She wanted to find a handsome and rich man in the future. Qian. How many times have I told you? Why are you always like this? You can't curse people like that. It's immoral. Mo Lianhua saw that Yun Jian had left and returned to her innocent self. As she said that, Mo Lianhua leaned on Song Yu. Don't you think so? Lianhua, you're still so kind. Song Yu pulled Mo Lianhua into his arms, but his eyes were looking in the direction where Yun Jian had left. He was in a daze for a long time. So she's not a mistress. So she's the killing god of Team Monarch that so many people admire. Only a girl like that is worthy of a person of noble status like me. Yun Jian. Song Yu kept repeating that name in his heart. I'm looking forward to our next meeting, Chapter 2015. In the gymnasium, Songyu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian each had their own thoughts. To the other students in Year 1 Computer Science Class 13 as well as students from other classes and schools. Although what happened just now was shocking, everyone went about their own business once the commotion was over. Under the organization of their class monitor, Lu Junlin, they continued to participate in the class gathering. It was undeniable that their class monitor, Lu Junlin, was very good at organizing. Soon, the atmosphere of the event reached its peak again. What happened just now was like a farce that was quickly forgotten by everyone. Of course, after Yun Jian left, Zhu Huili was not alone. There were still many friendly girls in the class, except for a few who made others speechless. In short, other than Yun Jian, Zhu Huili made many friends as well. University girls were generally more normal and friendly. This was especially true for freshmen who had just enrolled. Everyone was in an unfamiliar environment and had no friends, so they would be very friendly to everyone in the class. It was only when they got along for a long time and had established friends that they would reveal their true nature. This was a person's instinct to protect themselves in an unfamiliar environment. Of course, the existence of girls like Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian could not be excluded. On the other hand, Yun Jian, Chu Ning, and the other 5 had arrived at a street of stalls near the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. When they were in Min City Military Academy, Yun Jian would also go to the stalls and restaurants along the road with Chu Ning and the other 5. Although it was cool at night, walking along the bustling street where the breeze blew gently, choosing a stall with good food to sit down, and ordering a few meals to savor was a very ordinary but happy thing. The stalls were not exactly clean, but Yun Jian was only after this warm feeling. The 7 of them came to a handmade noodle shop on the street. Yun Jian ordered pickled vegetables and shredded pork noodles while Chu Ning and the other 5 had ordered their favorite noodles. They were currently sitting on the temporary stalls and waiting for their turn. Yun Jian, do you know you scared me to death? You went missing from the hunting school for 2 years straight away. I almost thought you were. I don't care. I'll treat you this time. Next time, you have to treat me 3 or 4 times. Don't forget. Chu Ning tapped her clean chopsticks against the small bowl that she was planning to use to fill her noodles. Although Chu Ning's words sounded like she was trying to trick Yun Jian into giving her a treat, Yun Jian knew that she was just worried about her. Giving her a treat was just a lame excuse. Okay, I won't forget. Yun Jian looked at Chu Ning's beautiful face that was obviously relieved and smiled. Alright, isn't Yun Jian back already? Chopsticks are for eating, not for knocking. If you knock like this, all the bacteria that you can't see will go into the bowl. Give me the chopsticks. Compared to 2 years ago, Chu Xiangnan was much calmer. He snatched the chopsticks from Chu Ning's hand and gave her a few instructions. It's none of your business. Chu Ning pursed her lips, looking like she did not mean what she said. These 2 are dating. Yun Jian, don't bother about them. Right, how have you been these 2 years? Jiang Weiwei interrupted Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan's conversation and asked Yun Jian. Hearing that Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were dating, Yun Jian smiled but was not too surprised. After all, she could tell 2 years ago that Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were quite compatible. On second thought, however, Jiang Weiwei was asking about her recent situation in the past 2 years. She had been staying in the Celestial Spring with CE for the past 2 years, 666 days, not a day less. Similarly, during the 666 days in the Celestial Spring, CE had not missed a single day of the embarrassing things he did to her. Once she thought about the 666 days and nights she spent in the Holy Spring, her cheeks flushed and the tips of her ears burned. She tried her best to look calm as she answered, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. I've been living well these 2 years. Chapter 2016. My Yunjian is amazing. How can she not be doing well? But Yunjian why is your face so red? Are you having a fever? Chu Ning asked when she caught a glimpse of the redness on both sides of Yunjian's cheeks. Just like 2 years ago, Yunjian's hair was tied up in a high ponytail and she was in high spirits. Since her rebirth, Yunjian's ponytail had never been cut short. Yunjian liked this style too. Her hair falling down affected her peripheral vision and alerted her surroundings. Her high ponytail tied her hair up high and her long hair flowed freely, giving her a relaxed and joyful feeling. However, there was one downside. Once her face flushed, there was no loose hair to cover the redness. Even her ears were exposed and her expression could be seen clearly. It's normal for a young lady to react this way. The stove at my house that cooks handmade noodles gives off a lot of heat. We're usually flushed when we come out of the kitchen. It's probably affected outside too. The restaurant owner came over with 2 bowls of piping hot pickled vegetables and shredded pork noodles that had just come out of the pot. He explained after hearing Chu Ning's words. As he spoke, he placed the 2 bowls of noodles on the table. These 2 bowls are pickled vegetables and shredded pork noodles. There are 5 bowls of other noodles. I'll serve all of you right away. The restaurant owner smiled and went to the kitchen as he spoke. With that, Yunjian successfully concealed the truth of her blush. Oh, I see. Chu Ning nodded, looking like a great detective. The 7 people's noodles were served one after another. It was an ordinary supper, but everyone was having a great time eating it. Along the way, he also talked about the scene when the 7 of them first met each other, as if it was only yesterday and still vivid in their minds. Yunjian, I still remember when you first came in, I kept picking on you and even made things difficult for you. You're so generous. If it were other girls, they'd probably be my nemesis for life. Jiang Weiwei could not help feeling guilty when she mentioned how she had picked on Yunjian back then. You still know that you're bad. I thought you didn't know. At that time, I really wanted to ignore you for the rest of my life. You're so arrogant. Chu Ning was filled with anger whenever she mentioned Jiang Weiwei. Why are you still talking to me then, Xiaoning? Jiang Weiwei pinched Chu Ning's cheeks and burst into laughter. Anyway, it's good that everyone is doing well, Fang Xiaoran, who was usually quiet, said with a smile. That's right. Vice Captain Hong Fan nodded. The 7 members of Team Monarch had been through a lot to get to where they were today. Their future was not over yet. The starting point of a king has just begun. After eating supper and walking around for a while, Chu Ning and the others found a hotel to stay in and returned home the next day. Although Chu Ning and the others were disappointed that Yunjian did not plan to continue studying in the military academy, they still respected Yunjian's choice. At the same time, Chu Ning and the others also invited Yunjian to visit their university's military academy when she was free. The military academy in the university was completely different from the Min City Military Academy in high school. Yunjian agreed. Chu Ning and the others rushed back to school early the next morning. Of course, they were faced with the punishment for skipping class. Yunjian arrived at Hingtong Old Street at 3:00 in the afternoon on time to meet Dai Ani and the other 2. However, before Dai Ani and the other 2 could see her, Yunjian saw a few figures that she did not want to see. Hingtong Old Street was near the university town and was a popular place for couples and friends of the opposite sex to meet. Besides, the environment was good and there were green trees all around. Hingtong Old Street, as the name suggested, was an ancient street. Walking on Hingtong Old Street made one feel as if they had returned to the old streets when they were young. Some of the old streets were built in the 30s and 40s of the last century and had a very antique vibe. There was a constant stream of people coming and going in the food street of the old street every day. Of course, the place where Yunjian met Diani and the other two was not in a crowded place. Instead, it was in a small pond pavilion on Hengtong Old Street. However, to get to the almost empty pond pavilion, one had to pass through the bustling old street. As a matter of fact, Yunjian saw three people that she did not want to see: Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian. Look at the three of them. They came together as a group of young men and women. The group of young men and women were generally good-looking and beautiful. They must have come out to shop during the day. Chapter 2017. With just one look, she could tell that the car's specifications were low. And she even listed out all the specifications of the car, just like the salesperson who sold the car. Everyone around them was stunned. Even Chenilan's sister-in-law, Chen Yumei, widened her eyes in shock. It was obvious that she was shocked. "Hey, whose daughter is this little girl? You really do sound like you know how to do it." A woman sitting at another table couldn't help but mutter as she held a baby with a pacifier. "That's right. The last time my family went to a car dealership, we were thinking of buying a car to go home." This little girl's words matched the salesperson's words. Just the numbers of the car's speed and horsepower are different. She's really professional. A middle-aged man with a crew cut stroked his bald head, which only had a little black hair left, and joked with a laugh. Then, everyone around them praised her. After everyone recovered from their shock, they began to discuss who Yunjian's daughter was. After all, they were all distant relatives and usually wouldn't meet. Some of the younger generation would only gather together when something big happened when they were in their teens. However, under normal circumstances, when something big happened, everyone would sit around the table and have a meal. Most of the time, they would chat with their close relatives. Usually, at this time, you could only see the faces of your distant relatives. Some of them might be familiar, but you wouldn't know which one of your distant relatives she was or what the relationship between them was like. But for someone like Yunjian, who stood out a little and had nothing to do, the relatives who were chatting casually would turn their attention to her. Therefore, after the two people finished talking, the group of people around them started to ask about Yunjian. "Which family's daughter is this?" Listening to what she said, "She's quite capable. She'll definitely have a bright future," someone asked. "This is the daughter of Yun Gang and his ex-wife," someone answered. "The little girl is so eloquent at such a young age. She'll be very eloquent in the future." Although these people were praising Yunjian, no one took Yunjian seriously at that time. They were just talking about Yunjian to pass the time. As for Yunjian's words, "I'll never drive a sports car that costs less than 10 million yuan, no one took it to heart. Some of the people present took these words to heart, but they didn't take it seriously. This person was Chenilan. No one was more shocked than Chenilan when she heard what Yunjian said just now. It was because what Yunjian said was exactly the same as the car specifications and configuration that the salesperson had listed when her family went to the car shop to buy a car. Even the numbers were exactly the same. Therefore, when she heard Yunjian's words, Chenilan's eyelids twitched fiercely. After being stunned, Chenilan was unconvinced. Yunjian said, "I'll never drive a sports car that costs less than 10 million yuan. You don't drive a sports car that costs less than 10 million yuan. What do you drive? Tricycle? A tractor? Are you trying to use a tricycle and tractor to see who's faster than my sports car?" Chenilan blocked Yunjian directly, stopping Yunjian who was about to leave from moving forward. She stood where she was, refusing to give way. Yunjian was going to retrieve her car and return to Longmen City to complete what Qin Yiru had asked her to do, but Chenilan blocked her way. Move, Yunjian's indifferent voice rang with a sense of dread that made one's heart clench tightly. Chenilan was not afraid, however. She stood in Yunjian's way. You scolded my daughter just now, saying that our car specifications are low. How can you be like this? You even asked me to move aside, ha. Move aside. Apologize to me first before you leave. Ha, I've never met someone like you, learning to scold people at such a young age. Just as she said that, Yunjian extended her right leg and kicked Chenilan to the ground, rolling away from the spot in front of her. After that, she walked forward with her hands in her pockets as if nothing had happened, leaving a simple and indifferent remark. Childish and boring, eh? Chapter 2018. With that, Yunjian had already walked far away. However, Chenilan was never one to be trifled with. After she stood up after being kicked to the ground by Yunjian, although she felt a slight pain, this slight pain was like a great humiliation in Chenilan's eyes. Earlier, when Yunjian used words to refute Chenilan's daughter, Hong Junhua, Chenilan exaggerated it and repeated it over 100 times, as if she was afraid that others did not know about Yunjian's evil deeds. Now that she stood up after being kicked, Chenilan felt even more humiliated. Her husband, Hong Taishan, had started a plastic processing factory a few years ago and made a fortune. After the family moved to a big city, which of these relatives and friends did not follow her family's lead? Just like her sister-in-law, Qin Yumei, they flattered Chenilan to a whole new level. This almost made Chenilan feel that these damned relatives from the countryside could only be the green leaves of a fresh flower like her. Therefore, when she first returned to Xinjiang town, Chenilan felt like she had returned to her hometown in glory. However, who would have thought that she would be stuck with Yunjian and Qin Yiru? Chenilan, who had climbed up pathetically from the ground, was about to rush in the direction Yunjian had left. A slender hand grabbed Chenilan's wrist. Chenilan could not move and also stopped chasing after Yunjian like a crazy woman. However, she saw her brother, Yun-Yi, standing beside Chenilan. His hand was strong as he used his slender hand to grab Chenilan's wrist. The strength of his grip caused Chenilan's face to turn red from the pain. Then, Yun-Yi's cold gaze swept across her. The voice that came from his throat made Chenilan tremble violently. If you dare to spout nonsense to my sister again, I'll cripple you. Yun-Yi's words, coupled with his tall and slender figure, frightened Chenilan so much that her legs gave out. She really didn't have the courage to chase after him and pick a fight with Yunjian. At the same time, Yunjian was already driving her red Ferrari on the road from Xinjiang town to Longmen City at high speed. When she came to Longmen City, she bought about a dozen bass and had the fish seller tie them in plastic bags before driving back to Xinjiang town. On the way, Yunjian took a detour back to Xinjiang town and brought Qingyu along with her when she went to her house. Her brother, Yun-Yi, was currently grieving. Yunjian brought Qingyu back with her just to keep her company by Yun-Yi's side. Even if Qingyu stayed by Yun-Yi's side and did not say anything, it was enough to soothe Yun-Yi's anguish. Chenilan did not understand Yun-Yi's feelings, just like how Yun-Yi did not understand her lamenting about the past. Being stopped by Yun-Yi, Chenilan could feel Yun-Yi's murderous gaze. Perhaps it was because Yun-Yi was a guy, but in front of a typical woman like Chenilan who thought that guys were better than girls, she felt that guys were bolder. Therefore, Chenilan dared not pursue Yunjian for revenge. However, she was displeased and it was impossible for Chenilan to not find fault with Yunjian because of this. Yun-Yi could control her actions but she could not control her mouth. Therefore, Chenilan described Yunjian as shameless in front of the group of women and old ladies. Oh my! I've never seen such a shameless girl. She's a student but she's living like a socialite. She's just like those girls in nightclubs who have no self-respect and self-respect. Chenilan was spreading rumors about Yun Jian in front of the group. She even waved her hand as she spoke, as if Yun Jian was really such a person. One must know that unmarried girls in the countryside valued their reputation the most. What Chenilan said was equivalent to trampling on Yun Jian's reputation. Perhaps it was because Chenilan's family was rich, the people around them listened to her without a doubt. Even when Qin Yiru interrupted to say, "My Xiao Jian isn't such a person," no one paid any attention to her. That kind of girl. Not only does she go to bars and nightclubs, she likes to brag too. Didn't she say that she never drives a cheap sports car that's less than 10 million? Does she? She doesn't. Screech. While Chenilan was speaking, a fiery red Ferrari flagship limited edition supercar drifted at a high speed, braked not far from the crowd, and stopped. The car door opened and a girl who was dressed neatly got out of the driver's seat. She was so beautiful that no one could take their eyes off her. The girl's appearance halted Chenilan's words. Chapter 2019. According to past practice, if anyone dared to be presumptuous in front of Yun Jian, they would end up dead. Dai Ani's tone was as flat as, "Have you eaten today?" but it sent shivers down Pan Qian and Mo Lianhua, Song Yu, and the other spines. Gun. Is this a real gun or a fake gun? Pan Qian was stuttering, shaking violently. She was obviously spooked by Dai Ani's action of taking out a gun. This must be King fake gun. I've seen a real gun before. It's really heavy. This foreign woman is scaring you. Say, Qian, how do you know this beauty? Aren't you going to introduce her? The boy who asked Pan Qian if she knew Yun Jian spoke confidently, even sizing up Yun Jian as he spoke. To attract Yun Jian's attention, the boy flipped his short hair. At the same time, Diana maintained her posture of pointing her gun at Pan Qian. She was waiting for Yun Jian's reply. As soon as Yun Jian gave the order, she would shoot Pan Qian dead. Once they heard the boy say that Dai Ani was holding a fake gun, the group snapped out of their fear. Pan Qian was no longer afraid as well. She reached out to slap away the gun that Dai Ani was pointing at her head, but the latter dodged it nimbly. So fast. One of the boys could not help exclaiming when he saw Dai Ani's nimble dodge. Kids, let me give you a piece of advice. Get out of Sister Jian's sight right now or don't blame us for taking your lives. Gue Lian spat coldly after a glance at Yun Jian before turning to meet Pan Qian and the other's eyes. Take our lives. Do you dare? If we die, you'll be in jail for the rest of your lives too. Pan Qian refuted loudly when she heard Gue Lian. After that, Pan Qian studied Yun Jian from left to right before she spoke again. You're right. Yun Jian, I don't know where you found this actor. His acting sucks. If you really want to be a gang leader and mingle in the underworld so much, then why don't you become the gang leader's woman? Since you already have a rich boyfriend, it doesn't matter if you hook up with another one. But that's definitely a disgrace to Team Monarch's Killing God title. Did your rich boyfriend buy you the title of Team Monarch Slashing God too? God knows if you're really that powerful. I think you'll be scared half to death when you see blood in an official gangster scene. Pan Qian glared at Yun Jian and continued to clamor. However, just as Pan Qian said this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Seeing that there was no one around, she crossed her arms and coldly ordered Diana, listen up. Deal with it. Remember not to leave any traces behind. I still have to stay in Rivertown for a while. The 3 words dealt with were so flat that one couldn't feel the slightest rise or fall in it. However, this caused Pan Qian and the others to panic for no reason. Why you guys, don't get too immersed in the act. Let me tell you. Pan Qian stuttered as she pointed at Yun Jian and the other three. However, before Pan Qian could finish her sentence, they heard the soft sound of a bullet being fired from the silenced pistol in Diana's hand. It was only then that Pan Qian and the others realized. This is a real gun. It's a real gun. Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and all the young men and women present were so shocked that their expressions changed. Just as everyone exclaimed and thought that Pan Qian's head was going to explode, Yun Jian's deep and sharp eyes suddenly flashed. She turned sideways and used her elbow to block Diana's hand that was holding the gun, causing the bullet to deviate from the trajectory that should have exploded Pan Qian's head. Pan Qian knelt on the ground in shock. However, just as everyone thought that Yun Jian saved Pan Qian on purpose because she was afraid of seeing a bloody scene, they saw Yun Jian snatch the silenced pistol from Diana's hand in 0.1 seconds. TSK. 3 soft sounds of the silenced pistol, including the shot that should have killed Pan Qian. There were a total of 4 shots. They accurately hit the 4 people who were hiding in the bushes and eavesdropping about 50 meters away. The 4 people were killed on the spot in front of Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, Pan Qian, and the others. Song Yu, Pan Qian, and the others widened their eyes in horror. She really dared to. She really dared to kill. However, before Song Yu and the others could scream, Yun Jian's voice, which was as cold as ice in winter, commanded Diana and the other 2 in a voice that was as cold as hell. Her voice was neither happy nor worried, and it was extremely cruel. It's the people from Reverse Emperor. Chase after them and leave no one alive, Chapter 2020. Chenilan knew nothing about cars. She had only seen a sports car that was similar to the one Yun Jian was driving at a car rental shop. Sports cars all looked the same, so the price wouldn't be that expensive. Chenilan thought so. Therefore, it was natural for him to think so. Car rental shops existed in every city. That kind of shop usually put the old cars in the shop for people to rent. For example, if you didn't have a car at home and needed a car today, you didn't need to buy a car to go home. At this time, you could just go to the car rental shop and rent a car to go home. The rental fee was also calculated by the daily fee. For example, if the rental car was an expensive sports car, the fee would naturally be higher than the car rental. If it was an ordinary car in 2002, it would only cost 80 to 90 yuan a day. Yun Jian's words just now caused an uproar in the hearts of the people present. Ferrari's flagship limited edition sports car. Most of the people present were from the countryside, so they didn't know much about it. But Yun Jian said that there were only 3 cars in the world, and the lowest price was 50 million yuan. Everyone present heard it clearly. You only sold 3 cars in the world. This came from a slightly knowledgeable middle-aged man. 50 million. This. An old woman heard this, rolled her eyes, and stammered. She was so scared that her whole body trembled for a long time, and she didn't react for a long time. 50 million. Not to mention 50 million, even if it was 500,000 yuan, it was still an absolutely shocking and astonishing astronomical number. As for Chenilan, when she heard Yun Jian's words, she had already rolled her eyes. Her whole body was muddled, and it was obvious that she was scared badly. This car was worth 50 million yuan. To be honest, Chenilan really didn't know much about cars. She was also a woman from the countryside, and was lucky enough to meet her husband, Hong Taishan, who was originally from the city. When Chenilan and Hong Taishan got married, it was considered that she married into a higher social class. Who in her village didn't envy her? Later, Hong Taishan set up a plastic processing factory and made some money back. He took a risk and expanded his investment in the plastic processing factory. There were dangers, but in the end, he made back all his capital. After making a fortune, the whole family moved to the big city to live. Chenilan also lived the life of a rich lady that others envied. However, if Chenilan followed him to live in the big city, she would be purely a housewife who knew nothing. When she said that Yunjian's car was similar to the sports car she had seen before, Chenilan felt guilty. Because the sports car she saw was similar to Yunjian's car, but it was much inferior to Yunjian's car in terms of appearance. Now that she heard Yunjian's words, Chenilan instantly felt like she had shot herself in the foot. Her expression changed drastically, and she looked so embarrassed that she couldn't bear to look straight at her. I've never seen a 50 million supercar before. Who knows if you're bragging or not? Chenilan said sourly. I didn't buy this car for 50 million. 50 million is the lowest price. I bought it at an auction for 300 million renminbi. Yun Jian said bluntly after Chenilan finished speaking with a cold smile. Since Chenilan wanted to compete, then she would play with her. It was a reward for Chenilan slandering her in front of those women. Unsurprisingly, Chenilan's face turned even paler after hearing this. However, it wasn't over yet. When Chenilan's face turned pale, Chenilan's husband, Hong Taishan, lowered his eyes and suddenly recalled what his brother said. This is indeed a Ferrari's flagship limited edition supercar. But isn't this one of the 3 supercars that were sold at sky-high prices at the largest international auction house a few years ago? I heard that one of the 3 supercars was bought by a top international business tycoon. The other one was bought by the 3rd richest person in the world. There's still one more. As he spoke, Hong Taishan turned to look at Yun Jian in disbelief. He swallowed hard and exclaimed in front of everyone, Yun Jian, you're the one who's going to die. The first 2 were bought by men. I heard from someone who knows the business that the last supercar was bought by one of the top figures on the International Secret Service assassin list. So, could it be that you are, a... Chapter 2021. Could it be that you are one of the figures on the International Assassin ranking list? Because the first 2 were men, their identities, appearances, and ages were all public. Everyone knew their background. Only the figure on the International Assassin ranking list is extremely mysterious. Rumor has it that the Ferrari sports car that the man bought was already reserved. When the first and second Ferrari were put up for auction, the highest bid was 500 million. But only the 3rd Ferrari was bid at 300 million, because no one dared to challenge the figure on the International Assassin ranking list. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. In that case, Hong Taishan looked at Yun Jian with a panicked and helpless expression in front of everyone. His face suddenly changed, as if he had seen the Grim Reaper. He was so scared that his face turned pale, and his lips and teeth trembled. International Assassin ranking list. What's that? Yeah, Taishan. What's that? We have never heard of it. The surrounding old women all blinked when they heard Hong Taishan's words, indicating that they didn't understand. That was not strange. For these old women and women who lived in the countryside, their favorite thing to do was to gossip about other people's business. But most of the gossip was about who had an affair, whose child was admitted to a key high school, and whose child was so powerful. Or whose child was admitted to a university, but after coming out to work, there was no place for him to work. In the end, he could only do odd jobs. How pitiful. Some were complaining, some were gloating, and some were sympathetic. But these gossipy women were talking about nothing more than trivial things. Occasionally, when something big happened, such as a daughter or son in the village who died in an accident, they would talk about it as if the sky was falling down. Some would even gloat and say, "Serves you right. You make a lot of money, but you don't have the life to enjoy it. However, the gossipy women in the countryside were talking about these trivial and insignificant things. Usually, these trivial things were not worth mentioning. As for the International Secret Service assassin rankings, there was no internet or smartphone in this era, so the gossipy women had no place to learn about it. Naturally, they didn't know anything about it. When Hong Tai-shan heard this, he glanced at Yun Jian and said with some fear, "Agents and assassins are people who specialize in killing people. They are similar to the assassins in ancient times." It was the ranking of the most terrifying Secret Service assassins. Those who are ranked at the top have killed the most people and are more powerful. Some of them would even walk right past you, and you wouldn't even know when they killed you. It was a killing machine specially trained by some assassin organization. It was terrifying. Though rich big shots often die suddenly in the world, many of them didn't die of their own accord. They were assassinated. Every word that Hong Tai-shan said was explained to the people around him in great detail. It could be seen that Hong Tai-shan was a very meticulous person. Not to mention that Hong Tai-shan also liked to show off. Just by looking at Hong Tai-shan's meticulous manner, it was not surprising that he could develop a small plastic processing factory to its current state and become the key to his family's fortune. When the old women and women around them heard Hong Tai-shan's words, they even nodded with an "oh," looking very frightened. Chen Yilan's expression changed again and again. She knew that her husband Hong Tai-shan would not speak carelessly. However, just as Chen Yilan's expression changed again and again, and the people around them were looking at the scene in front of them, obviously frightened, Yun Jian's words suddenly came faintly. This group of people who were listening to a ghost story suddenly saw a person pretending to be a ghost. Similarly, their hearts were fiercely touched. "Have you said enough, eh?" Chapter 2022. As soon as Zhou Huntao finished his words of admiration, a boy from the martial arts club punched Zhou Huntao and said with a chuckle, "Keep bragging. Your bragging won't get you. The chairman of New Cruise is so mysterious. He's a mythical figure that even world-class bigwigs want to meet. How could he possibly meet someone as ordinary as you? I heard that New Cruise rose to prominence in the past 3 years. I heard that it only took them a year to become the biggest car marketing company in Country Z. Then, it took them another 2 years to step onto the international stage. Now, they're a household name. Look, they're even on TV. But the chairman of New Cruise is really mysterious. It seems like the chairman of New Cruise, Zhang Jifan, has been managing the company for the past few years. Whether it's the TV footage or the photos of the chairman of New Cruise, countless private investigators have tried to find out but to no avail. I really want to see the real face of the chairman of New Cruise." As he spoke, the boy began to sigh. To them, although they felt that they would never be able to meet the chairman of New Cruise in their lifetime, they still wanted to know what the chairman of New Cruise looked like, be it height, or weight. As they entered the year 2000, color TVs and cars were becoming more and more common. In this era, Country Z's economy was rising at a speed faster than a rocket. The people's standard of living had also undergone a drastic change to the point where foreigners were amazed. Therefore, it was not surprising that there were color TVs at this time. "We want to see it too." "That's right. I wonder when we can see the real face of the chairman of New Cruise." "I'm so King excited." The members of the martial arts club woke up early for their morning practice. As long as there were no classes in the morning or afternoon, they would obediently head to the club's training ground to train. After a month, everyone's collective strength had improved by quite a bit. Everyone's admiration for Yun Jian grew as well. At the same time, everyone was surrounding Yun Jian as they walked back to school. No one noticed the slight glint in Yun Jian's eyes when New Cruise was mentioned. On the way back to the dormitory, Yun Jian parted ways with the members of the martial arts club. Unexpectedly, just as she reached the dormitory, Yun Jian bumped into Gu Nianji, who had come to Jiangqing to play with Yun Jian. Ah! Yun Jian and Qing Yu had been abducted. I'm the only one left, how pitiful. Gu Nianji rushed up and hugged Yun Jian, pointing out that Qing Yu had been abducted by Yun Yi in exasperation. Because her roommates were in the dormitory, Gu Nianji didn't want to go up, so she dragged Yun Jian to go shopping. She even criticized Qing Yu for being unkind while they were shopping. As they strolled around, Gu Nianji forgot about Qing Yu's betrayal and dragged Yun Jian to the store to pick out clothes for Yun Jian to try. Gu Nian picked a miniskirt for Yun Jian once she thought about it. Seeing how excited Gu Nianji was, Yun Jian gave it a try. Just as she tried on the short skirt, Yun Jian suddenly realized that she couldn't pull up the chain in this kind of waist-tight skirt. In spite of it, Yun Jian did not think too much about it. She had been eating well for the past month, feasting on meat and fish every day. It was normal for her to gain weight. Hence, Yun Jian changed back into her own clothes and walked out of the fitting room. Sister Jian, you're good. Why didn't you change into it? I think this dress suits you very well. You'll look beautiful in it. Gu Nianji asked in confusion. I can't wear it, it's too small. Yun Jian passed the skirt to the attendant. Ha! Too small. That's impossible. Sister Jian, you're so skinny, how can you not wear it? Gu Nianji came over to ask. As she spoke, Gu Nianji took the skirt from the attendant and circled it around Yun Jian's waist to try it out. Just as she did so, her hand touched Yun Jian's stomach. She looked up abruptly, her eyes glinting as she asked in surprise, really? Sister Jian, your stomach is much rounder now. It doesn't feel like it's extra fat. You're not pregnant, are you, eh? Chapter 2023. Looking at the tombstone covering the grave and sealing it, Yun Jian felt a sense of desolation. She sighed for Lu Lanhua's life. Perhaps this was Lu Lanhua's life. She had spent her life protecting her children and grandchildren, favoring boys over girls. She had hoped that one day, her son or grandson would become rich and bring her away from Xinjiang town to enjoy life. She had lived in Xinjiang town since she was born and had placed all her hopes on her son. She had never thought that as a woman, she would have to rely on her own two hands to make a career for herself in this lawful society. This was Lu Lanhua's tragic life. Her failure was because she did not have her own opinions when she was young. Women should strive for self-improvement. A person could only succeed if they set their dreams and hopes as their life goal. If they did not even give themselves some hope and dreams, then what was the difference between their life and Lu Lanhua's? Or perhaps, many people would feel this way. One day, when you heard the news of the death of someone you were so close to that you wanted to kill even in your dreams, you would be dazed for a moment. She was dead. Then, there would be silence, as if something was missing from the bottom of your heart. This was the unfathomable human heart. Yun Jian did not feel this way. She had not spent much time with Lu Lanhua. To her, Lu Lanhua was just like those people she had killed, not worth mentioning. After sending Lu Lanhua up the mountain to be buried, the group returned to Lu Lanhua's house. Grandfather Yunzhong was the same as Yungang. He had been hiding at home, unable to believe the truth. After all, they had spent most of their lives together. It was inevitable that they could not bear to see her leave just like that. Yun Jian had only seen grandfather Yunzhong when she sent Lu Lanhua up the mountain to be buried. Unlike the energetic Yunzhong in the beginning, grandfather Yunzhong seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. After sending Lu Lanhua up the mountain to be buried, Yunzhong and Yungang each hid in their own rooms in a daze. Qin Yiru had divorced Yungang after all, so it was not right for her to say anything. However, Chin Yiru was quite kind-hearted. She and a group of old ladies who came to help the Yun family clean up and prepare the dining table. They invited the relatives and friends who came to see Lu Lanhua off today to a big meal. Dinner was quickly prepared. Just as they were about to invite everyone to the table for dinner, a silver-gray supercar drove around the corner and stopped near Lu Lanhua and Yunzhong's house. Coming. My cousin is here. A middle-aged man in his 40s, who had just come over for dinner, stood up excitedly and walked towards the silver-gray super sports car. Everyone saw a handsome man in his early 30s alighting from the silver-gray sports car. This man looked very mature and steady, and his appearance was completely different from the large group of beer-bellied middle-aged men present, who looked short and ugly because of their fat bodies. This car is the same as the daughter's Ferrari and the Lan family's Corpo. They're all sports cars, right? An old woman rubbed her hands and asked in a daze. A Ferrari is called a Ferrari and a Camaro is called a pineapple. The old woman from the countryside was really good at translating languages. Pfft. Grandma, what Ferrari and Corpo? It's Ferrari. And Corpo. Corpo. The old woman's grandson laughed and nodded as he slowly explained. Okay. Ferrari, Corpo, they're all pretty much the same. I was wondering what was going on today. Why are all of them driving those sports cars? Could it be that the prices of those sports cars have dropped? This old woman has never seen so many high-class cars in her entire life. I've learned something new today. Chapter 2024. Of course, Song Yu couldn't have come out to play by himself and bumped into Yun Jian. This time, Song Yu had deliberately followed Yun Jian out, but he had hidden far away previously. Therefore, when Yun Jian and Gu Nianji were in the clothing store, Song Yu didn't hear what Yun Jian and Gu Nianji said. Now, he saw that Yun Jian and Gu Nianji were actually walking towards the hospital. Could it be that Yun Jian was sick? With this thought in mind, Song Yu quickly ran over. When she saw Song Yu, Yun Jian's eyelids twitched and she held her forehead. This Song Yu was really like a lingering spirit. Let's go, I'll take you to eat something delicious. Yun Jian gestured to Gu Nianji with her eyes, then turned around and walked in the opposite direction of the hospital's main entrance. Hey, Yun Jian, I told you we weren't, all right. What kind of delicious food are you taking me to eat? Gu Nianji originally wanted to say, aren't we going to check if you're pregnant? But just as the words were about to come out of her mouth, she heard Yun Jian say that she was going to treat her to something delicious. Gu Nianji rubbed her stomach and thought that she was hungry too. It was time to eat, so the words that were about to come out of her mouth stopped. Eating was more important. Besides, even if Yun Jian was pregnant, she had to eat first. What if the baby in her stomach was starved? Gu Nianji rubbed her chin and felt that she was right, so she comforted herself and confidently led Yun Jian in the opposite direction of the hospital's main entrance. Yun Jian, are you feeling unwell? If you're not feeling well, I'll take you to the hospital. Let your friend eat by herself. Song Yu saw that this was a rare opportunity. If he offered to take Yun Jian to the hospital, then he would be able to show off in front of Yun Jian. Therefore, he wanted to walk towards Yun Jian and reach out to grab Yun Jian. After finding out that Yun Jian's background was clean and that Yun Jian was mysterious, Song Yu wanted to be with Yun Jian for a long time. If they got along well in the future, they would be able to rush down the aisle. Moreover, after witnessing Yun Jian's dark side, Song Yu felt that she was even more compatible with him. Because his family was also in the underworld. Could this be the legendary Golden Boy and Jade Girl? At that time, Yun Jian, Song Yu's side was Gu Nianji, and Gu's right, Gu Nianji's hand. Song Yu wanted to grab Yun Jian's hand, so he had to go around Gu Nianji. Gu's Song's into the back of course, Nianji, SSS, who had just turned into Yun hats, and turned into a corners into a A's. Hiss. Song Yu sucked in a breath from the pain, but he could not show his ugly side in front of Yun Jian. Ha, sorry, I didn't see you. Gu Nianji glared at Song Yu, emphasizing the word human. As she spoke, she grabbed Yun Jian and walked in the opposite direction of the hospital's entrance. What Gu Nianji meant was that she did not see Song Yu as a human. Song Yu understood what she meant and flushed with anger. However, he could not lash out in front of Yun Jian. Just as Song Yu was fuming but unable to lash out, Yun Jian's phone beeped. Yun Jian glanced at the screen. Sister Jian, what's wrong? Did Brother E text you? Gu Nianji glanced at Song Yu and went to Yun Jian's side to ask loudly on purpose. No, Yun Jian replied softly and added after a pause, let's go. My disciple is here for me. Ha. Zhang Xiaofeng's here in River City too. Ha, why didn't he team up with me since he's here? To think that I'm his sister now. Gu Nianji spat. Song Yu, who stood on the side, had no idea who Yun Jian and Gu Nianji were talking about. He clenched his fists. Yun Jian's eyes were narrowed and red as she replied faintly, it's not him. It's my new disciple, eh? Chapter 2025. The one who came to Earth from Deity Continent to look for her. Yun Jian smirked. Oh my, Sister Jian, you actually took in another disciple behind my back. What does he look like? Is he as handsome as I am? Otherwise, I won't acknowledge him. Once Gu Nianji heard that Yun Jian had taken in another disciple, she patted her hair to let her fringe fall before playfully flipping her hair like a dashing man. However, Gu Nianji's imitation of a dashing man was a hilarious one. When she flipped her hair, her head swayed along with it. You have to know that I'm the top expert in the continent, matchmaker Gu Nianji. Not only am I handsome, but when I'm ruthless, I can even beat myself up. Hey! Hey! Sister Jian, why are you still so far away? Gu Nianji had been putting on a dashing pose, but when she glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of her eye, she realized that Yun Jian had already walked away with her hands in her pockets. Gu Nianji abandoned her pose immediately and chased after Yun Jian like a chick chasing after a hen that had gone far away. The top expert in the continent. Song Yu, who stood where he was, repeated with a frown when he heard Gu Nianji. Since he could not figure it out, he decided not to think about it. What top expert in the continent? The continent. Could it be that she still thought of herself as someone from another world? Why were the people following Yun Jian a bunch of weirdos? This would not do. After he got Yun Jian, he had to make Yun Jian stay away from these weirdos. As he thought about it, Song Yu ran after Yun Jian and Gu Nianji. Inside the hospital, buildings were lined up neatly. All the outpatient buildings in the hospital were surrounded by walls like school buildings, cafeterias, and other places that belonged to the school. The east, west, north, and south gates of the hospital were guarded by guards to allow vehicles to pass through. Yun Jian and Gu Nianji had just exited the north gate of the hospital when Song Yu spoke into the phone and blocked their way. Where are you going? I have a car, I'll give you a ride. No need. Yun Jian gave Gu Nianji a look, then walked around Song Yu and was about to cross the road. Honk, honk, honk. Just then, a silver-gray Mercedes-Benz stopped in front of Yun Jian and Gu Nianji. A head popped out from the driver's seat of the silver-gray Mercedes-Benz sports car. The person glanced at Song Yu and said, "Young master, I'm here." Seeing his cool silver-gray Mercedes-Benz sports car parked in front of Yoonjian and his housekeeper calling him "young master" in front of Yoonjian, Song-yu felt a little proud. "This car is mine. Beauties, hop in." Song-yu tilted his head and opened the door for the front passenger seat, looking like he was inviting Yoonjian to get in. One had to know that many girls knew that he had a Mercedes-Benz sports car at home and would fight to get in. Song-yu looked at Yoonjian expectantly. Just when Song-yu thought that Yoonjian and Gu Nyenji would fight to get in, a fiery red flagship limited edition Ferrari, LoveLore, came drifting from afar with a hard brake and parked beside Song-yu's Mercedes-Benz sports car. When the two cars were parked next to each other, it was easy to tell which one was more expensive than the other. Just as Song-yu was stunned, the sudden appearance of the limited edition LoveLore sports car that only 3 units were sold in the world, the supercar that was usually talked about and envied by the boys, was right in front of him. While he was amazed and wondering about the origin of the sports car, a woman walked out of the car. A woman got down from the Ferrari LoveLore and went to Yoonjian, passing the car keys to her right in front of Song-yu and saying softly, "I'm sorry. Sister Jian, your car." The limited edition sports car that he talked about with the boys, the one that they could only dream of but could not get their hands on, was Yoonjian's. Song-yu's eyeballs were about to fall out of their sockets. At the same time, Yoonjian and Gu Nyenji had already gotten into the Ferrari sports car. Before they left, Yoonjian left Song-yu with a statement that made him look like he had just eaten sh*t. The words that came out of her mouth nearly made Song-yu vomit blood. "I'm sorry, your Mercedes-Benz sports car's specifications are too low. I've never sat in such a low-quality sports car and I'm not used to it." When he saw Gu Nyenji suddenly appear in front of him, Lee Nong's fair and delicate face didn't change at all. "Kid. Brat, you're amazing. You don't even care about me. Which continent are you from? Tell me your name." Gu Nyenji's hands were on her hips, looking like she was ready to show Lee Nong who he was. Yoonjian's lips curled in amusement at the sight. "Deity continent, Lee Nong." The handsome young man's eyes flickered as he replied. "Ha, so you're from Deity continent. Aren't you good with words? You. What the f***ck did you say? You're from Deity continent. Then you're deity. Gu Nyenji did not react at first, but when she did, she was so shocked that she nearly choked. Gu Nyenji was from Yulong mainland, and Deity continent was a legendary place in the eyes of people from other continents. Gu Nyenji choked on her own saliva from the shock and coughed violently. Cough. Lee Nong thought that Gu Nyenji was cute when she pretended to be arrogant and accidentally turned it into a joke. Seeing that Gu Nyenji was about to choke, Lee Nong couldn't help but reach out to pat her back and ask, "Are you okay?" With that slap, Gu Nyenji could clearly feel Lee Nong accidentally lift the strap of her bra. Lee Nong retracted his hand in a panic when he came back to his senses. The strap of her bra bounced back like a rubber band and stuck to her skin with a soft pop. Chapter 2027. The slap sound was originally very soft. It was so soft that only the two of them, Gu Nyenji and Lee Nong, could hear it. However, the park was very quiet. It was so quiet that even the chirping of birds and insects could be heard. In such a quiet park, Lee Nong saw that Gu Nyenji, who was choking and coughing, was almost out of breath. He reached out to kindly pat her back to relieve her. However, he never expected that his long, fair, and neat fingers would accidentally pick up the strap of Gu Nyenji's underwear. This was the first time he had touched a woman's underwear strap. Lee Nong felt his earlobe burning a little, so he didn't show it on his face. However, his heart was in a panic, and he quickly withdrew his hand. He pretended not to notice that the hand that was holding the underwear strap had withdrawn too quickly. The underwear strap was like a rubber band, and it directly rebounded on Gu Nianji's skin with a slap sound. Li Nong was so scared that he almost retreated. His pure, curious, yet panicked face actually revealed a trace of red. Obviously, this was the first time Li Nong had accidentally touched a woman's underwear strap. Yun Jian also heard the slap sound. At that moment, Yun Jian only blinked. I'm sorry." Li Nong scratched his delicate hair and said softly. You. What's the use of apologizing? You rascal. So what if you're a god from the gods' continent? How dare you touch me? Gu Nianji blushed when she thought of this. In the next second, Yun Jian saw Gu Nianji chasing Li Nong all over the park. In a place where Yun Jian couldn't see, Gu Nianji chased after Li Nong. She couldn't catch up to Li Nong, but she refused to give up. As she ran, Gu Nianji suddenly tripped over a tree root in the park. She cried out and fell forward. Be careful. Li Nong stopped running. He was about to catch Gu Nianji, but she suddenly pushed him down. In the next second, by the time Gu Nianji reacted, she was already sitting on Li Nong. However, the two of them never expected that Gu Nianji would actually sit directly on Li Nong's thigh with that fall. It just so happened that there was a thin layer of clothing between the two of them, and they were not far apart. Ah! In the next second, Yun Jian heard Gu Nianji scream. 3 minutes later, Gu Nianji ran back from afar in a huff. She glanced at Yun Jian and told her, Sister Jian, I'm going back to the hotel, before running off. Yun Jian's eyes lit up. Li Nong had come to look for Yun Jian. That was right, so Yun Jian asked Li Nong to get a room at the hotel where Gu Nianji was staying. Yun Jian had no idea what happened between Li Nong and Gu Nianji after that. 3 days later, Yun Jian secretly went to the hospital for a pregnancy test. Yun Jian was still in a daze when she received the list. She's actually pregnant. The baby is a month old. More than a month. Wasn't that the time at the beach by the rock? It turned out that she did not take birth control pills that day and was really pregnant. Although the mystery man was still alive and Yun Jian was afraid that her pregnancy would cause problems, she was both surprised and delighted when she heard the news. She did not plan to tell Ce about her pregnancy right away. Ce would definitely be surprised if he knew, but looking at the time now, the mystery man should have recovered and could assassinate her and Ce at any time. If he knew that she was pregnant, he would definitely protect her with his life. Therefore, even if she had to tell him, Yun Jian planned to tell him later. However, just as Yun Jian was about to stuff the pregnancy test into her pocket and walk out of the hospital, a slender and well-defined hand snatched the pregnancy test that Yun Jian was about to stuff into her pocket. His familiar voice rang out immediately. What's this? Yun Jian looked up and saw Ce's handsome side profile that made one forget to breathe. Yun Jian did not expect Ce to come to her at this juncture. She was so shocked that she wanted to take the pregnancy test back from Ce. However, it was too late. Ce's deep gaze had already scanned the doctor's note beside the pregnancy test. Pregnancy confirmed. Therefore, when she saw Ce carrying Yun Jian, Dr. Jiang was still in a daze for a moment. What was going on? She was not ruined by a heartless man. Are you here for an abortion? You're still young. You should take precautions in the future. Don't be afraid when you're pregnant. If you have too many abortions, you won't be able to get pregnant in the future. Sigh, young people nowadays, when do you plan to have an abortion? I'll arrange it for you. Dr. Jiang shook her head and picked up her black pen. She wanted to set the date for Yunjian's abortion. Most of the college students she met secretly came alone to have an abortion. Of course, there were also boyfriends who accompanied them to have an abortion. There were even many girls who had an abortion 3 or 4 times in a year. Dr. Jiang had seen many of them. When the couple next to them heard Dr. Jiang's words, they glanced at Yunjian and Ce with a strange gaze. However, they saw Ce put Yunjian down and hugged Yunjian in his arms as if he was protecting a treasure. The moment Dr. Jiang was about to register the abortion date, Ce's eyes flashed. He said bluntly, "You're a doctor. Tell me how to take care of the fetus, eh?" Chapter 2029. I won't be free for the next 2 days. Why don't you set the abortion date for the day after tomorrow? I have to go out tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Take care of the fetus. You want to take care of the fetus. Dr. Jiang had originally taken out her notebook to mark out the date for Yunjian's abortion and asked Yunjian and Ce to choose a specific date. But who would have thought that Ce would actually say that they wanted to take care of the fetus? Take care of the fetus. Was this for real? It was very common for university students to date each other nowadays. If you walked on the streets, you would see university couples walking hand in hand sweetly. Many university students who did not have enough life experience and yearn for adult life would steal the forbidden fruit and not know how to protect themselves. This also led to the fact that in recent years, university girls who secretly came to the hospital for an abortion accounted for most of the abortions in the year. In Dr. Zhang's words, those who had the guts felt good, but those who did not had the guts to give birth. They had to secretly come to the hospital for an abortion without telling their parents, classmates, and teachers. If the situation was better, the boyfriend would accompany the girl for an abortion. If the situation was worse, the girl would secretly come to the hospital alone to bear the burden. Dr. Jiang had worked in the gynecology department for many years. She had seen many such things and was used to it. There were many university students who came to the hospital for an abortion. There were countless boyfriends who accompanied their girlfriends to the hospital for an abortion and urged the girl to get an abortion quickly. They were afraid that the girl would not get an abortion and would blame it on them. However, Dr. Jiang had never seen someone like Ce. As soon as he walked into the outpatient room, he did not anxiously ask when the abortion could be done. Instead, there was a hint of nervousness on his handsome face as he asked how to take care of the fetus. Are you sure you want to take care of the fetus? Dr. Jiang repeated, are you sure you want to take care of the fetus and not have an abortion? Yes, I'm sure. Yunjian nodded. Although Yunjian did not want to tell Ce that she was pregnant immediately, Yunjian had never thought that she would have to have an abortion after being pregnant. To Yunjian, since the child was born, it had the right to be born into this world. It was not easy to be a human, but parents who did not even give their child a chance to be a human were not worthy of being parents for the rest of their lives. Dr. Jiang stroked her forehead, her face full of shock. The couple opposite her also suddenly showed a look of shock. To be honest, Yunjian and Ce's reactions were very different from normal university students. She was actually going to give birth to it. One had to know that the financial resources of college students were basically from their parents. Those who were a little more independent would at most go out and do some idle jobs to earn some extra money. However, giving birth to a child and raising the child was a very expensive matter. How could it be so simple? Young people, Auntie is just reminding you. It's not easy to raise children these days. You're still young. It's not easy to raise children. Not only do children need to be cared for, but they also need financial support. You're still young. Is it true? Do you plan to have this child? Previously, Dr. Jiang had never been nice to the college students who came to get an abortion. But now, she changed her fierce expression and spoke to Yunjian in a gentle voice. Regardless of whether the child could be born or not, Dr. Jiang admired Yunjian and Siyi's performance. However, admiration was one thing, but one had to be realistic. Originally, Dr. Jiang and the couple thought that the biggest problem for Yunjian and Siyi to have a child was money. Without money, how could they raise the child? However, the moment Dr. Jiang finished speaking, Siyi suddenly spoke. His handsome smile did not move, but he was unwavering. Prescribe medicine for the fetus. You can name the price. As long as she and the child are healthy, I'll pay any price. Chapter 2030. He would pay however much it cost. Was this man a rich second-generation heir? Was he that rich? What Dr. Jiang said just now revolved around one main theme. She thought that Yunjian and Siyi were both university students and were raising children at such a young age. Of course, it was fine to have children at such a young age. However, students at Yunjian and Siyi's age were still children in university. Normal university students relied on their parents for their daily expenses. Other than earning some extra money, they had no other income. The most important thing in raising a child was money. Money for milk powder, clothes, baby products, and so on. Which one of these did not require money? Raising a child from a young age was not only costly but also physically and mentally exhausting. Of course, money was the most important thing. Dr. Jiang was not superficial. This was the truth. Without money, one could not do anything, much less raise a child into adulthood. In spite of it, Siyi's words shocked Dr. Jiang and the couple sitting opposite her. As long as Yunjian and the child's health could be guaranteed, he would pay however much it was. On second thought, if Siyi was a rich second-generation heir and had a rich father, it would not be so rare for his girlfriend to get pregnant and give birth to a child. Perhaps the rich second-generation heir only wanted a girl to give birth to a child and did not want to marry the girl into his family. Dr. Jiang shook her head and stopped thinking about it. She wrote down some pregnancy-stabilizing medicine for Yunjian in her notebook. In 2002, doctors in hospitals were not as high-tech as they were now when prescribing medicine. Now, they only needed to enter the prescription into the computer and swipe their medical card. In this era, doctors would write down the prescription in the hospital's notebook and let the patient pay at the cashier to get the medicine. After Dr. Jiang was done prescribing the medicine, she carefully reminded Siyi of some things that pregnant women should pay attention to before handing the notebook to Siyi. Remember not to have sexual intercourse in the first 3 months of pregnancy or it might lead to a miscarriage. Don't do it too frequently after 4 months. Siyi remembered every word that Dr. Jiang said clearly. This was related to his Xiao Jian and his child's health, so of course, he had to listen carefully. Siyi and Yunjian listened carefully and began to look forward to the arrival of their child. A paramedic rushed in. The medical staff rushed into Dr. Jiang's outpatient room. The person held a stack of data sheets in his hand and shouted at Dr. Jiang in shock. Dr. Jiang, there's been a mistake. I made a mistake just now. The female university student named Yunjian was not pregnant. He must have mixed it up with the data of another female university student. The pregnant one is another female university student. Both Yunjian and Siyi's eyes glinted with a deep glint. Not pregnant. What's going on? Dr. Jiang was also surprised. Then, Dr. Jiang stood up and asked. 15 minutes later, Dr. Jiang bowed deeply to Yunjian and Siyi and apologized. She said that the ultrasound machine had mixed up the data of a college girl not long ago. The one who was pregnant was not Yunjian but the other university student. Yunjian was slightly disappointed when she heard the news, but she breathed a sigh of relief. After all, it was too sudden for her to be a mother. Welcoming the child when she was prepared was the wisest choice. Ce frowned and looked at Dr. Jiang from the side, repeating, "Not pregnant." "Yes, your girlfriend isn't pregnant." Dr. Jiang nodded. Initially, she thought that Ce was genuinely nice to Yunjian, which was why he asked for Yunjian to give birth to his child. However, looking at Ce's current expression, Dr. Jiang felt like he was about to kill someone. Could it be that he was a rich second-generation heir who wanted his girlfriend to give birth to his child? Was he going to flip out now that he knew that his girlfriend was not pregnant? Dr. Jiang sighed. This girl named Yunjian would probably fall out of favor with this man in the future. Just as Dr. Jiang thought so, Ce pulled Yunjian into his arms and pressed her head against his chest. In front of Dr. Jiang and the paramedic just now, he told Yunjian gently. "Xiao Jian, whether you're pregnant or not, I'll protect you with my life." Chapter 2031. Ce's words were heartwarming. Yunjian's disappointment was enveloped by warmth when she heard it. Honestly, it was impossible for Ce not to be disappointed. Thinking about it, however, his Xiao Jian was still young. If he really made her pregnant so early, he would be robbing her of her youth. Moreover, early pregnancy was bad for a woman's health. Once he thought about it, he felt relieved. Do not ask how Ce knew that early pregnancy was bad for a woman's health. Dr. Zhang's consultation room was a gynecology consultation room. There were posters on the wall beside Dr. Jiang about pregnancy. Early pregnancy was bad for a woman and her baby's development. Of course, if she accidentally got pregnant, abortion would be even more harmful to her health. Ce would never let Yunjian do that. Now that she was not pregnant, she could only say that she was a little disappointed. Hearing Ce's words, Yunjian was touched. She grabbed Dr. Zhang's large palm in front of her and nodded. No matter what happened, she would go through thick and thin with him. Dr. Jiang had seen many couples, but she had never seen one like Yunjian and Ce. Knowing that they were pregnant, both of them were determined to keep the baby. Both of them were university students, so the man did not urge the woman to have an abortion. On the contrary, when Ce found out that Yunjian was pregnant, he carried her in carefully with joy on his face. Later, when he found out that Yunjian was not pregnant, Ce said what he did. He said that he would protect her with his life. These words were not grand and vigorous, nor were they exaggerated. Instead, they were very ordinary and simple, yet they were able to warm one's heart. It was Dr. Zhang's first time witnessing such sincere love. She was truly stunned. Before Yunjian and Ce left the clinic, they accidentally caught a glimpse of the name of the girl who was really pregnant. Yunjian was not unfamiliar with the girl's name. It was Mo Lianhua. After leaving the hospital in shock, Ce saw that Yunjian was also hungry, so she dragged Yunjian to a nearby restaurant for a meal. For the next 2 days, Yunjian took 2 days off. She stayed with Ce for 2 days and went sightseeing near the university town. They lived like a normal couple. Of course, Ce did not neglect what he was supposed to do. However, during this period, Ce had taken sufficient precautions. It was better to wait for both of them to get used to it and for his Xiao Jian to grow up before having children. 2 days later, Ce returned to Enhan as scheduled. Yunjian, who had taken 2 days off, also returned to school. Her period, which had not come for more than a month, came to visit Yunjian as scheduled. At that moment, Yunjian realized that her belly had shrunk again. Thinking back carefully, before Gu Nianji dragged her to try on clothes that day, they had eaten an entire street. He ate until his stomach was about to burst. There was a reason why her belly had grown so big. In the dorm. Her roommate, Miaoli, was holding an invitation and passing it to Yun Jian, who had not returned to the dorm for 2 days. "This is for you. It's an invitation to the black market party tomorrow night. It's from someone in Rivertown's underground black market. Many girls and boys in our school have been invited to attend. It's said that we can see underground racing, boxing, and a series of things that we usually don't get to see tomorrow night. Most of the people in school are attending. You should go too." Ever since they found out that Yun Jian was studying in the military school, other than Zhu Huili, her other 2 roommates, Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan, were much friendlier to Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, let's go together. Most of the students in school are attending. It's said to be a big event. You can see a lot of things." Zhu Huili was washing her feet when she saw Miaoli passing the invitation to Yun Jian, so she spoke up quickly. Rivertown's underground black market was also a gang. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Coincidentally, she was going to set up a trap in Rivertown 2 months later to eradicate Reverse Emperor. If she could rope in the forces of Rivertown's underground gangs, it would definitely be beneficial. Yun Jian accepted the invitation from Miao Li and nodded at Zhu Huili. Chapter 2032. Miao Li heaved a sigh of relief and Yun Jian agreed to participate. This was an invitation that had never been given before. The underground gang actually sent invitations to the students of the University of Electronic Science and Technology of Jiangxing and some students of the University of the East. Of course, Yun Jian did not know that this was not a coincidence. However, Yun Jian could guess what was going on. However, she would deal with whatever came her way. She, Yun Jian, was never afraid of anything. That night, at Jiangxing University of Electronic Science and Technology of China, downstairs of the female dormitory, Miao Li stood behind a big tree and looked at a man. This man was none other than Song Yu, the campus hunk of Dongfang University. At the same time, Song Yu had another identity. He was the son of the leader of the underground gang in Jiangxing. "Have you done what I asked you to do?" Song Yu asked Miao Li when he was 3 meters away from her. "She has accepted the invitation and said that she will come." Miao Li swallowed her saliva and nodded. "That's good. You will be rewarded later." Song Yu nodded. Then, he looked around and left the place quickly. November 8, 2002. That day was also the day of the event as stated in the invitation letter. At 6:00 p.m. Yun Jian did not put on any makeup. She went out without makeup and wore casual clothes. However, it still could not cover her beautiful face and perfect figure. Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan were busy for another 2 hours. They only walked out of the dormitory when they were dressed to the nines. At this time, Yun Jian and Zhu Huili had already walked out of the school gate. They planned to take a taxi to the designated location. However, before they could flag down a taxi, someone called out to them. "Yun Jian, what a coincidence. Shall we go together?" Yun Jian and Zhu Huili turned to see Brother Kai leading the group of people who were in the private room of the bar the last time. They were walking toward them in a grandiose manner. Brother Kai was a nice person. Yun Jian didn't appreciate the others, but she still went with them. When they arrived at their destination, it was halfway up a mountain. The flat ground halfway up the mountain was built like a party venue. This time, the venue of the gang's banquet was open air. However, under the bright neon lights, the flat land halfway up the mountain did not appear desolate and dark. On the contrary, this place felt as bright and beautiful as the day. Here, Yun Jian met Mo Bufan and the others from the Martial Arts Society. A group of people gathered together and began to talk about everything under the sun. "I heard that the leader of the gang in Jiangxing is the father of the most handsome boy in Dongfang University, Song Yu. Do you think it's true? A heckling male voice sounded. This boy was none other than the one who had been hanging out with Brother Kai and his gang. He was the one who had refuted Yun Jian in the VIP room of the bar last time. He had scorned Yun Jian for being as good as her school's computer teacher. His name is Zhou Zheng. Zhou Zheng was ugly, but he liked to talk dirty and often showed off in front of the girls. Now that there were so many girls standing around at such a big event, he looked for an opportunity to find a topic to talk about. Oh my god, the leader of the gang in Jiangqing is the father of the most handsome boy in Dongfang University. Is it true? Zhou Zheng, don't talk nonsense. The girls didn't know Song Yu's identity, so they all screamed exaggeratedly. They were even more interested in Zhou Zheng's question. Hey, it's normal that you don't know. My good brother Song Yu is so low-key. He is indeed the son of the underground gang leader that you invited today. The future successor. Zhou Zheng started to boast again. His words attracted the screams of the girls around him. In fact, Zhou Zheng and Song Yu weren't very familiar with each other. They were just friends and brothers. If you have any questions, just ask. Zhou Zheng said exaggeratedly. Although Zhou Zheng was ugly, the girls liked to hear him brag. Hence, they all rushed forward to ask. Just as Zhou Zheng was surrounded by the girls, Yun Jian looked ahead and asked Mo Bufan, is the number one gang in Jiangqing City the Fortune Wolf Gang? After hearing Yun Jian's words, Mo Bufan nodded. Yes. Hearing this, Yun Jian's lips curled into a red arc. Pfft, you went to university in Jiangqing City. Haven't you heard of this? Zhou Zheng, who had been joking around with the girls, turned to look at Yun Jian and sneered. Zhou Zheng was already unhappy with Yun Jian's domineering attitude. Now that he had the opportunity to say this, he quickly spoke up. What he got in return was Yun Jian's disregard. Zhou Zheng was very unhappy about this. Look! That's Song Yu, the most handsome boy in school. At this moment, a girl's voice was heard. Everyone turned to look at him. They saw Song Yu standing next to a masculine middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. He was surrounded by a group of bodyguards and they were walking towards them. That must be the boss of the Fortune Wolf Gang. Oh my god. Song Yu is so handsome. He's so low-key. He even hid his identity as the eldest son of the Fortune Wolf Gang's boss. There were a few more screams and cheers. At this moment, Song Yu walked towards Yun Jian and the others while the girls screamed. Song Yu was a little proud when he brought his father to Yun Jian and the others. Especially when Yun Jian looked sideways at her father, the boss of the number one gang in Jiangqing City, Song Fan. She must be thinking that her father was the boss of the number one gang in Jiangqing City. Then, she must be stunned. As soon as Song Yu thought of this, he raised his head proudly. However, before Song Yu could raise his head, Yun Jian looked at Song Fan, the boss of the Fortune Wolf Gang. Her aura was not inferior to Song Fan's at all. She curled her lips and spoke directly to Song Fan in the tone of the boss of the number one gang in Zhe Province. Are you Song Fan, the boss of the number one gang in Jiangqing City, the Fortune Wolf Gang, A? Chapter 2033. Are you Song Fan, the leader of the Fortune Wolf Gang, the number one gang in Jiangqing City? Yun Jian's question stunned everyone present. Especially Song Yu. Song Yu originally thought that Yun Jian would be shocked by his identity when she saw that his father was the leader of the number one gang in Jiangqing City. However, Song Yu thought too much. Not only was Yun Jian not surprised by Song Yu's identity as the son of the leader of the number one gang in Jiangqing City, but everyone present was shocked. Yun Jian actually dared to speak to Song Fan, the leader of the #1 gang in Jiangxing City, in such a tone? Did she not know what kind of person she was talking to? Song Fan. He was a famous figure in the underworld. In Jia province, Song Fan's existence was not to be said to be feared, but at least when it was mentioned, it was a figure that frightened people. And Song Yu had always been proud of his father. Song Yu had never announced his identity as the son of the leader of the Fortune Wolf gang. Today, Song Yu went all out. Song Yu was even more certain of one thing because he saw Yun Jian order Dai Annie and the other two to deal with the dozen or so killers at the pavilion last time. Yun Jian and he were the most compatible people in the world. There was no one else. It was because Yun Jian was living in such a bloody environment. Was it not the same for him? Father, this is the girl I mentioned to you before. Her name is Yun Jian. She's the girl I mentioned to you before, the girl with the same background as our family. Song Yu had already mentioned Yun Jian's every move in the pavilion to his father, Song Fan. Song Yu also said that only such a girl was worthy of him with a noble status. When Song Fan heard Yun Jian's question, he was stunned for a moment. For a moment, he had an illusion that he saw the behavior and tone of Luo Sha, the leader of the #1 gang in Jia province, in Yun Jian. Of course, Song Fan had never seen the true face of Luo Sha, the leader of the #1 gang in Jia province. Song Fan had heard every word and action of Luo Sha in the past. Song Fan was only the leader of the #1 gang in Jiang City. In the entire Jia province, Song Fan's status was not enough to meet Rakshasa. But on second thought, the girl in front of her was only her son's friend. She was also a girl that her son was rarely interested in, a girl that he truly wanted to become his future partner. How could it be the famous and ruthless Rakshasa who had become the leader of the #1 sect in Jia province in the shortest amount of time 2 years ago? How was this possible? After thinking about it, he knew that this kind of thing was impossible, so Song Fan shook his head. After knowing that Yun Jian was his son's sweetheart, Song Fan gave face to Yun Jian and replied to her in public. Yes. He was Song Fan, the leader of the Fortune Wolf gang, the #1 gang in Jiangxing City. Song Fan had an aura that many people didn't have. It was different from his son Song Yu's sloppy appearance. Song Fan's aura was what a gang leader should have. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and immediately had a good impression of Song Fan. The good impression here referred to the feeling of disgust and friendliness towards a person. As for Song Fan's son Song Yu, she tended to dislike him. But Song Fan's aura and behavior were worthy of Yun Jian's admiration. Are you crazy? How dare you talk to the leader of the Fortune Wolf gang in such a tone? Do you want to die? At that moment, Zhou Zheng, who had been trembling and frightened by Yun Jian's tone to Song Fan, cursed at Yun Jian in a very soft but angry voice. The students standing around were so scared that their faces changed when they knew who Yun Jian was talking to. Yun Jian was crazy. How dare she talk to a gangster in such a tone? And Song Fan was the leader of the #1 gang in Jiang City. However, just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was courting death, Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at Song Fan. In front of so many people, she said something that made them feel that she was courting death and wondered what she was going to do. Leader of the Fortune Wolf gang in Jiangxing, in 2 months, lend me your brothers, eh? Chapter 2034. Yun Jian, what on earth was she trying to do? Everyone present was stunned by Yun Jian's words. Song Yu was also stunned. Why did she want to borrow his father's gang members? Usually, when 2 gangs were having a dispute, the leader of one gang would ask for help from the other gang's leader. Was she going to borrow people to fight with many people? She wasn't the gang leader, so why did she need so many people? Song Fan was also slightly stunned. As the leader of the #1 gang in Jiangxing City, Song Fan's thinking was naturally different from his son Song Yu's. Song Fan was the mature and steady type. In fact, this wasn't the first time Song Fan had seen his son Song Yu take a liking to a girl and introduce her to him. But those girls all had a common characteristic: to please him. Yun Jian was completely different. Which girl didn't please and flatter the leader of the #1 gang in Jiangxing City like the other girls when she saw him? Instead, she wanted to borrow his gang members. Why was this? Song Yu asked what Song Fan wanted to ask. Yun Jian, why do you want to borrow my father's gang members? What can she do? Isn't it just to show off? Wasn't she like this in the big private room of the bar? She thought she was very powerful and amazing. She even showed off her computer skills in front of us. The person who spoke was Lan Yi, who had shouted at Yun Jian when she first met Matthew in Jiangxing City. Then, she had spoken rudely in the big private room of the bar. Despite Yun Jian's stunning hacking skills and extraordinary capabilities, she was still a nobody. But, what was the use of that? Without a backer, what was she? Song Yu, the father of the most handsome guy in Jiangxing City, was the leader of the #1 gang in Jiangxing City. No matter how powerful Yun Jian was. Even if Yun Jian was an assassin or a secret agent, she was outnumbered. Moreover, she wasn't. Lan Yi's words immediately resonated with the girls present. Many girls did not like Yun Jian because she had not only attracted the attention of Brother Kai, Mo Bufan, Su Jinglong, and Wei Jingxian from River City University of Electronic Technology, but she had also attracted a lot of attention. Now, even the attention of Dongfang University's most handsome boy, Song Yu, was on Yun Jian. Without a doubt, this pushed Yun Jian to the peak of the girls' envy and jealousy. Why aren't Lianhua and Pan Qian here yet? I feel that Lianhua is the most compatible person with Mr. Song. Exactly. Yun Jian can do anything, but she has to show off in front of boys. Attract the attention of the boys. Does she lack men that much? The surrounding girls began to whisper to each other. Yun Jian naturally heard it, but she didn't care. Just as the girls were secretly chatting, Song Fan's voice sounded. As long as you can give me a convincing reason, my brothers from the Kailang gang can be lent to you. Song Fan was indeed courageous. He didn't reject her outright, but instead said this to Yun Jian. However, just as Song Fan finished speaking, Song Yu added, Yun Jian, as long as you agree to be my girlfriend and break up with your boyfriend, the Kailang gang will be at your disposal. You will be the future wife of the Kailang gang's head. As soon as Song Yu said this, the group of girls around him exclaimed. Did they hear it wrong? Song Yu actually confessed to Yun Jian. And it was such an affectionate confession. So, do you agree? Song Yu asked cautiously. I agree. At this moment, the surrounding girls wanted to answer Song Yu for Yun Jian. Song Yu was in a relationship with Yun Jian as his wife. One had to know that Song Yu's girlfriends had always been for fun. But now, Song Yu, as his wife, was asking Yun Jian to be his girlfriend. Just when the girls were envious and thought that Yun Jian would agree to Song Yu's request, Yun Jian's cold voice mixed with the flow of the air. She said arrogantly to Song Yu and Song Fan, which stunned everyone present. I'm here today to tell you that I'm going to borrow the Kailang gang's people, not to ask for permission. If you don't want to lend them to me, then you can wait to be removed from the province. Chapter 2035. Yun Jian was not joking. Su Zetian was now managing Falcon Hall for her. Falcon Hall's ability was now so powerful that it could annihilate any mafia group effortlessly. This was the result of Su Zetian's hard work for the past 2 years. Back then, Su Zetian thought that he could only be the boss of Longmen City for the rest of his life. Now that he was the top mafia group in Jia province, he was more motivated than ever. Returning to reality and hearing Yun Jian's words, Song Yu, Song Fan, Mo Bufan, and the rest of the martial arts club, including Brother Kai and the rest, were stunned. Would the Fortune Wolf gang wait to be removed from Jia province if they did not agree to her request? This was the Fortune Wolf gang. How dare Yun Jian say something like that? Did she really think that she was some kind of powerful figure? Everyone thought that Yun Jian had lost her mind. If she wasn't crazy, how could she have said such words that could possibly lead to a fatal disaster? Even Mo Bufan was slightly worried about Yun Jian, so he spoke up. Yun Jian, don't spout nonsense like that. Mo Bufan said that out of goodwill. After all, the truth was right there. No matter how outstanding Yun Jian's ability was, she was only one person after all. On the other hand, the boss of Jiang City's top mafia group, Song Fan, had a large group of people behind him. It was easy to tell who had the upper hand with just a glance. Just when the atmosphere was at its most tense and everyone thought that Song Fan would explode in the next second, a brisk and loud middle-aged man's voice rang throughout the place. Ha ha ha. Good temper. Young lady, I like your temper. Everyone saw Song Fan, who was standing in front of Yun Jian and beside Song Yu, guffawing before looking at Yun Jian with admiration. Not only was Song Fan not enraged by Yun Jian's words, his impression of Yun Jian had improved instead. Everyone's jaws dropped in shock. Young lady, I'll see you after tonight's gathering. Now that my old friends are here, I have to go entertain them. Don't leave first. Song Fan's eyes flashed as he said to Yun Jian. Yun Jian's red arc arched again at the sight of it. Song Fan was indeed different from Song Yu. He was a smart person. See you after the party, Yun Jian said in front of everyone after Song Fan gave her a hint. After that, Song Fan was escorted by his dozen or so bodyguards as he walked towards the group of important figures in the distance. This group of people were all dressed in upper-class clothes. Some of them were Song Fan's partners, while others were Song Fan's old friends. No one saw the glint in Song Fan's eyes before he left. If outsiders did not know the meaning behind Yun Jian's arrogant tone, Song Fan had already guessed Yun Jian's identity. As she watched Song Fan leave, the red arc on Yun Jian's face disappeared. That's it. Nothing happened at all. The surrounding people were bewildered. No one could tell what had happened just now. Only Yun Jian and Song Fan knew what had happened. Yun Jian. Do you know what you were doing just now? You're too shameless. You're shameless to the extent that the whole world will be ashamed of you. When Lan Yi saw that the important figure Song Fan had walked away, she was left alone with the group of university students. Thus, she glared fiercely at Yun Jian and said loudly, "Thank you for the compliment." "Same to you." Yun Jian did not evade Lan Yi's words. "Thank you for the compliment." "Same to you." What she meant was that if she was shameless, then Lan Yi would be exactly the same as her. Lan Yi did not immediately realize that Yun Jian was scolding her in a roundabout way. "All right, I'll take you to the place where we play. There's a place for us to play. There are guns, balloons, arrows, darts, and so on. There's also a stall with food and drinks. If you win, you can even win prizes, eh?" Chapter 2036. Song Yu suggested when he saw that Song Fan had gone far away. That night, even though Song Fan had sent out the invitation in the name of the number 1 sect in Rivertown, the banquet was held halfway up the mountain. That was because they knew that many important people would come over that night. Furthermore, it was a gathering at night, so it was different from a normal ball venue. It was very big and there was a lot of traffic. There were at least tens of thousands of people gathered here tonight. Therefore, Song Fan naturally couldn't provide all the food and desserts. In addition, although Song Fan's Fortune Wolf Gang sounded scary, they had never hurt ordinary people. Therefore, there were a lot of street food stalls, or game vendors who played balloons, archery, and darts, as if they were going to a market. There were barbecue, fried snacks, noodles, and so on. There were also games that children liked to play, such as balloons, archery, and darts. If it wasn't for Song Fan's invitation, this place would have been bustling with noise and excitement, turning it into a night market for people to go to. In addition, the lights illuminated the surroundings as bright as day. If it weren't for the surrounding mountains, people would believe it even if someone said that it was a foot of a bustling city. As soon as Song Yu finished speaking, everyone present nodded. "You guys go." "I won't go." Yun Jian turned her head and said to Zhu Huili, Mo Bufan, and other members of the martial arts club. Song Yu's words obviously aroused the interest of Zhu Huili, Mo Bufan, and others. Even if the people present were no longer elementary, middle, or high school students, they were still very interested in this kind of game. "You won't go." "How could that be?" Song Yu muttered the last sentence in his heart. How could Yun Jian not go? If she didn't go, how could he carry out the next step of his plan? Just now, when he brought his father, Song Fan, to Yun Jian, Song Yu thought that Yun Jian would change her opinion of him after knowing that his father was Song Fan. However, Song Yu never expected that Yun Jian would have such an attitude. Fortunately, he had a next step of his plan. Song Yu quickly winked at Miao Li, who had been standing at the side without saying anything. He wanted Miao Li to think of a solution. Seeing this, Miao Li hurried over to Zhu Huili, held Zhu Huili's chubby hand, and said to Yun Jian, let's go together. Let's all join in the fun. Isn't that right, Huili? You also want Yun Jian to go with you, right? Zhu Huili wasn't used to Miao Li suddenly calling out to her in such a gentle tone. She nodded blankly and said, yes, yes. Yun Jian, let's go together. You're quite lonely here. It'll be more lively if we go together. Yun Jian saw how Song Yu winked at Miao Li just now. Hearing Zhu Huili's words, Yun Jian agreed. She wanted to see what Song Yu was going to do. The group soon arrived at the place where they were having fun. Song Yu blinked his eyes. He deliberately sent Mo Lianhua, Pan Qian, and the others away today just for this moment. Clap clap. Song Yu suddenly clapped his hands after he brought everyone to the place. After a while, a group of people dressed as members of the Fortune Wolf Gang came out from all directions. This group of people held many roses in their hands. After a while, they used the roses to make a heart shape on the ground. There were a total of 99 roses, not one less. Oh my God! It's so romantic. Oh my God, Hunk Song is too romantic. I'm so fascinated. Seeing this scene, the girls standing around all cried out in alarm. What the girls yearned for was nothing more than a romantic confession. At this time, Song Yu had already walked to the heart shape of the 99 roses in front of Mo Bufan, the martial arts club, Brother Kai, Miao Li, and Shi Xiujuan. He reached out to Yun Jian from 5 meters away, looked at her affectionately, and said, 99 roses represent my heart. Yun Jian, I love you. Be my girlfriend. I'll protect you forever and won't let you get hurt. Chapter 2037. Song Yu reached out his hand to Yun Jian, waiting for Yun Jian's reply. Song Yu stood in the love circle of 99 roses, waiting for Yun Jian to walk towards him. Normal boys would kneel down on one knee when proposing. However, Song Yu disliked kneeling on one knee, afraid that it would dirty his knee. Song Yu thought that he had already arranged 99 roses in the love circle. This kind of sincerity was something that he used to disdain. In the past, whenever he wanted a girl, that girl would obediently walk into his arms. Hence, he was determined to have Yunjian today. Be together. Be together. Be together. At this time, someone shouted, and the surrounding people followed suit. Even the girls who usually didn't get along with Yunjian shouted. Not only the surrounding students, but even the passers-by who saw this scene stopped, clapped their hands and shouted. The atmosphere reached its climax in an instant. Under the uproar of the surrounding girls, Song Yu saw that Yunjian wasn't walking towards him as he expected. He lowered his eyes, pulled a smile, and looked at Yunjian as he continued his emotional speech. Yunjian, maybe you don't know me well enough, but I'll let you know me. You said that we're not from the same world. Today, I'll confess my identity to everyone, to you. I'm not an ordinary person. I'm the son of the Fortune Wolf Gang's leader. Like you, we're from the bloody world. That's why we're a match made in heaven. I swear, from today onwards, loving you is my life's mission. Please be my girlfriend. Song Yu had so many girlfriends, and this wasn't the first time he said such emotional words. When the surrounding girls heard Song Yu's emotional speech, they were so touched that they wished they could become Yunjian and accept Song Yu's love. Hearing Song Yu's words, Yunjian only wanted to sneer. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of a girl not far away. She immediately narrowed her eyes and coldly looked at Song Yu. Are you sure we're from the same world? I'm sure. I love you. I've never given my heart to any girl before. Only you are worthy of my heart. Song Yu said without hesitation. However, before Song Yu could finish his emotional speech, Yunjian caught a glimpse of the girl's figure behind Song Yu. Slap. The girl slapped Song Yu in the face. The girl was none other than Mo Lianhua. At this moment, Mo Lianhua looked at Song Yu in disbelief, as if she had been betrayed. I really misjudged you. I thought you were sincere to me. I didn't expect it to be you. Mo Lianhua looked sadly at Song Yu, who was standing in the love circle formed by 99 roses. As Mo Lianhua spoke, she turned her head and glared at Yunjian as if she wanted to kill Yunjian. She looked fierce as if Yunjian was a mistress. At this time, Mo Lianhua no longer pretended to be pure. She glared at Yunjian fiercely and shouted at Yunjian, "You third party. Mistress. How can you be so shameless? Why don't you just die? Why don't you just die?" Mo Lianhua still didn't know that she was pregnant. The person who accidentally made a mistake with Yunjian's pregnancy data sheet was Mo Lianhua. After hearing Mo Lianhua's words, Yunjian just snorted coldly and laughed. Sometimes, even if you don't look for trouble, people will still see that you are outstanding and bully you. Did Song Yu and Mo Lianhua really think of her as an ordinary university girl? And a third party? Yunjian didn't remember anything happening between her and Song Yu. Boring. Yunjian spat out these words coldly and turned to leave. Yunjian. Song Yu still wanted to persuade her to stay. However, Yunjian had just taken 2 steps in that direction when she suddenly glanced to the left from the corner of her eye. She saw a long saber slashing towards Yunjian at the speed of light and lightning. That speed was definitely not something an ordinary person could possess. Even a high-level assassin was far inferior. Yunjian's eyes flashed sharply. In the next second, she directly put her hands together and pressed the long saber that was slashing towards her on both sides with her hands. At that time, the person holding the hilt had the absolute advantage. In spite of it, Yunjian's grip on the saber's blade was unscathed even when her opponent was trying to slash her with the saber. Because the person was too fast, the surrounding people didn't have time to react. This unforeseen event was faster than the speed of light. However, 3 seconds later, Yunjian had already snatched the long saber and kicked the person away. The person was kicked back 2 steps by Yunjian. If it was a normal person, they would have vomited blood from Yunjian's kick. Yunjian didn't show any mercy. Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and the others around them were so frightened by this sudden change that their faces turned pale. The woman who had rushed up to assassinate Yunjian stopped in her tracks and reached out to pull at the black gloves on her hands. She smiled at Yunjian and said, "Tisk, 006, it's been 2 years. I didn't expect you to still be so fast. But it doesn't matter. I'm here today to defeat you." The person who had come was none other than the leader of the Soul Leader organization. He was one of the 3 survivors of the Inhun organization with Yunjian and Mad Dragon in her previous life. At the same time, he was also determined to defeat Yunjian, Shinji. 006. Who was 006? Everyone present, led by Song Yu, was stunned and full of doubts. However, just as Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, Mo Bufan, and the others were stunned, Yunjian, who was standing in front of everyone, revealed a terrifying smile that no one had ever seen before. Then, in front of everyone, she threw the long knife back to Shinji. After Shinji caught it, she very calmly took out the 2 butterfly knives and held them in both hands. She calmly curled her lips and said, "Let's do this." 095, this is the 609th time you've tried to assassinate me. I'll satisfy your request and fight you. However, I'll still say the same thing. In an Hun organization, you weren't my match. 2 years ago, you weren't my match. The current you is still my defeated opponent. Chapter 2038. 2 years ago, Yunjian had been kidnapped by an assassin organization. In the end, they found out that the organization called the Soul Leader was Shinji's. And Yunjian had accepted Shinji's challenge. Judging from Yunjian's tone, she seemed to know the woman who'd charged at Yunjian with a long knife. And 006. What kind of name was 095? Why did it sound like a serial number for someone in a certain troop? What were they talking about? Or did they know each other before? What are you talking about? What 006, what 095? Can you still defeat me? You've assassinated me more than 600 times. Yunjian, I'm telling you, you is mine. You can't take him away. You're always seducing men with that foxy face of yours. Don't think I'm afraid of you. Yu's father is the boss of the Fortune Wolf gang. If you have any self-awareness, get the hell away from me. Otherwise, I don't care who you are. I'll kill you. Mo Lianhua's head was filled with hatred. She looked at Yunjian, then at Shinji. She spoke with a face full of loathing and disgust. Song Yu was hers. His was hers. No one could take him away. Yunjian held 2 shiny butterfly knives in her hands and looked at Shinji. She ignored Mo Lianhua, who was yelling at her like a madwoman. Back then, Shinji had indeed asked her for the address. She had even said that she would definitely come back and defeat her. When that long knife had suddenly appeared and slashed at her, Yunjian had already guessed that it was Shinji. Because only Shinji could use such a fast and agile long knife. Yunjian and Shinji were both good at knives. But the difference was that Yunjian was good at butterfly knives, while Shinji was good at long knives. If you wanted to know why, you'd have to go back to Inhun. Back then, Yun Jian and Shen Ji had been trapped together with all the children who'd been captured by An Hun. In the third year, the higher-ups had the children kill each other. The rules of the game were to kill everyone until only 3 people were left. Only 3 of them survived. The night before the massacre, the children were allowed to choose their own weapons. Many children chose long-range weapons like guns and ammunition because long-range weapons like guns and ammunition gave people a feeling of safety. Yun Jian and Shen Ji were the only ones who chose a butterfly knife and a saber. At that time, Mad Dragon had yet to join An Hun. That battle was Yun Jian and Shen Ji's first battle in An Hun. Nearly 100 children had slaughtered each other. In the end, only 3 had survived. All the children who chose long-range weapons like guns were killed by Yun Jian and Shen Ji. Only Yun Jian, Shen Ji, and another child survived. After the rest of the children died, An Hun organization recruited a new batch of people, and one of them was Mad Dragon. The Triennial Massacre was the unchanging rule of the An Hun organization. As long as they were in An Hun's assassin training camp, they would have to participate in a battle every 3 years. Only 3 people could survive this battle. Yun Jian and Shen Ji were the survivors of the first massacre. After that, An Hun organization would continue to train the newly recruited children. 3 years later, these children would be allowed to fight against the 3 survivors. In this cycle, Yun Jian, Shen Ji, and Mad Dragon had all climbed out of a pile of corpses. It wasn't an exaggeration at all. As for the butterfly knife, it stayed with Yun Jian and stayed with her until the end. Shen Ji had always used a long knife. This had never changed. Back in reality, Yun Jian had known Shen Ji since she was 5. She had always seen Shen Ji as a rival. When she saw the long knife, she had guessed who it was. Mo Lianhua, don't be so ungrateful. Song Yu, who had been slapped by Mo Lianhua, pushed Mo Lianhua in front of everyone and roared. After shouting, Song Yu hurriedly stood in front of Yun Jian and stopped Shen Ji. He said to Yun Jian, I told you that we're from the same world. Don't be afraid. I'll definitely protect you. Pfft. As soon as Song Yu finished speaking, Shen Ji laughed. Protect her. Do you know who 006 is? You. And you want to protect her. Shen Ji almost choked from laughing. This was probably the funniest joke she had ever heard in her life. Chapter 2039. Shen Ji, who had planned on fighting Yun Jian again, crossed her arms and loosely placed her sword next to her arm. She looked at Song Yu with disdain and continued to laugh. Kid, do you think 006 is from the same world as you? That's the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. Do you know who 006 is? The number of people she's killed is more than the number of arrogant words you've said in your entire life. Who do you think you are? If this was in the past, 006 would have killed you in one blow. From the same world. Don't be so funny. Do you know that back then, dozens of high-level assassins with guns and bombs faced 006 alone? 006 didn't even have a sword, but in a few minutes, she took their guns and killed everyone. She was only 14 years old. Do you know that when she faced a powerful assassin organization, not only did she not get killed, she even wiped out that famous assassin organization? Don't talk about a gang leader like you. Do you know that international black market tycoons aren't even worthy of carrying her shoes? Although she and I are mortal enemies, I, Shen Ji, will only submit to 006 in my life. Putting aside everything else, she is 006, and she is the goal I have been pursuing all my life. Wherever 006 is, that's where the international tycoons, businessmen, and politicians won't dare to sleep. That's right. Shinji was in awe of Yunjian from the bottom of her heart. But at the same time, Shinji was very strong. She refused to admit defeat. Even if it was 1,000 times, 10,000 times, she would still refuse to admit defeat to Yunjian. Songyu, Mo Lianhua, Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, and everyone else were shocked by Shinji's words. Yunjian was actually such a terrifying person. Who was she? But before anyone could react, Shinji had already walked in front of Yunjian and kicked away Songyu, who was 1 meter away from Yunjian. Then, Shinji met Yunjian's eyes in front of everyone. Shinji, who had just been speaking up for Yunjian, suddenly changed her expression. She laughed loudly and provoked Yunjian. However, the stronger you are, the more I, Shinji, want to defeat you. My only goal in this life is to surpass you. Shinji's words sounded like a provocation, but also like a blood oath. Hearing Shinji's words, the others thought that Yunjian was probably displeased that Shinji said something like that as well. But just as everyone thought so, they saw Yunjian's lips curl into a red arc as she replied to Shinji in front of everyone. I'll give you 10 moves to repay your kindness. Last time, when the mysterious man had been collecting puppets, Yunjian had asked Shinji to stop training puppets for the mysterious man. Shinji had given her face. This debt of gratitude was repaid today. Then I won't hold back. Shinji, who had been speaking up for Yunjian a second ago, now looked like he was dealing with an enemy. He mercilessly swung his sword at Yunjian. The surrounding passers-by, as well as all the university students who were invited here, were so scared that they retreated to the corner. Although they didn't leave and waited to watch the show, they were still scared witless. Yunjian. Songyu wanted to go help Yunjian, but when someone pulled him back to the corner, he pretended to be worried about Yunjian, but he didn't break free. Both Yunjian and this woman who called herself Shinji had swords in their hands. But the second before he swung his sword, he heard Shinji look at Yunjian. Then, in front of everyone, he sneered at the cowering Songyu. TSK, coward. Kid, 006 isn't someone a piece of trash like you can covet. You and she are from 2 completely different worlds. Even if you're the son of an international arms tycoon, you're dreaming if you want to be in the same world as 006. Go to hell, eh? Chapter 2040. After Shinji taunted Songyu in front of everyone, he turned to look at Yunjian and said faintly, "You're right. TSK, I didn't think you'd be bothered by trash like this after a few years. 006, based on your personality, it's a miracle that this guy is still alive." After Shinji had slashed at Yunjian in front of everyone, Yunjian hadn't fought back. She'd only dodged to the side. Shinji hadn't been in a hurry to attack and had started talking. Hearing Shinji's words, everyone's faces froze. Even if they were dumb, they knew that the person 006 was referring to must be Yunjian. Songyu and Mo Lianhua, who hadn't dared to speak from the beginning, were shocked by Shinji's words. Especially Songyu. Songyu and Mo Lianhua didn't doubt Shinji's words at all. After all, Songyu and Mo Lianhua had seen with their own eyes how Yunjian had killed 4 assassins at the pavilion and then ordered Dai Annie and the other 2 to kill the dozen or so assassins. Now, a woman who called herself Shinji had appeared. What she said about Yunjian was almost exactly the same as what Yunjian had described back at the pavilion. Thus, when Songyu and Mo Lianhua heard Shinji's words, their faces paled. Unexpectedly, Yunjian didn't directly respond to Shinji's words. She raised her eyebrows slightly and said softly, 9 more moves. Just now, Yunjian had let Shinji have 1 move. She'd said she'd let Shinji have 10 moves, not 1 less. TSK-006, you're still the same. You're so calculative about this kind of thing. Shinji squeezed the long knife in her hand and smiled. Of course I'm calculative with you. Yunjian returned Shinji's cold smile. Shinji tightened her grip on the long knife and suddenly walked to the side. I don't like being watched like a monkey. Let's go to an open space to fight. With that, Shinji left the crowd and walked to an open space halfway up the mountain. Seeing this, Yunjian put away her butterfly knife and followed Shinji. Let's go and cheer for Yunjian. Mo Bufan didn't understand the relationship between Yunjian and Shinji, nor did he understand what they were talking about. However, he called the others from the martial arts club and quickly followed. Zhu Huili naturally followed. Brother Kai led a group of people and followed of them. Let's go. Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan. Song Yu cast a sidelong glance at Mo Lianhua and wanted to chase after her. Of course, I was wrong. Of course. I'm of Mize, please give me another chance. I beg you. Mo Lianhua grabbed Song Yu's hand and begged. The last time Mo Lianhua hid it from Song Yu, she had secretly torn the condom when they were having an affair. After Song Yu found out, he was so angry that he yelled at Mo Lianhua that he would break up with her if she got pregnant. Mo Lianhua went to the hospital for a checkup. Only then did she confidently tell Song Yu that she wasn't pregnant. She wanted Song Yu to give her another chance. But now that Song Yu had taken a liking to Yunjian, he didn't want to go back. He pushed Mo Lianhua away and ran in the direction that Yunjian had left. He didn't even look at Mo Lianhua. Mo Lianhua angrily chased after him. Gu Nianji, who was staying in the same hotel as Li Nong, didn't know that they were staying in the same hotel. That night, Yunjian wasn't there. Gu Nianji was bored and decided to walk around Jiang City. She wanted to walk around mainly because she was too hungry. She hadn't even had dinner yet. Therefore, when she came out of the hotel room, Gu Nianji skipped and ran quickly. When she passed by the corner of the hotel, Gu Nianji ran too fast and bumped into a wall of flesh. She hissed and rubbed her head. Just as she was about to raise her head and scold the person who had come over for being blind, Gu Nianji stopped. She saw Li Nong standing in front of her. Li Nong glanced at Gu Nianji from the corner of his eyes. He obviously knew that Gu Nianji was staying in this hotel. Then, the words that came out of Li Nong's mouth made Gu Nianji want to tear his mouth apart on the spot. However, he had a cold expression on his face. On the outside, he said to Gu Nianji, "What a coincidence. I was just about to look for you. The last time you sat on my lap, I felt very comfortable. Your butt is so springy and fleshy. I like it very much. Can you let me touch it again, eh?" Chapter 2041. Last time, Gu Nianji accidentally fell into Li Nong's arms and even threw him to the ground. She sat on his lap. The feeling of flesh was something Li Nong had never felt before. Therefore, when Gu Nianji didn't react or even notice, Li Nong reached out and held her buttocks with both hands. He touched them and felt the woman's flesh. Li Nong liked this touch very much, so he wandered around the hotel for a few days. Today, he finally saw Gu Nianji. As soon as he saw her, she rashly bumped into his arms again. Her fleshy chest and enchanting figure made Li Nong swallow a mouthful of saliva. Therefore, the well-dressed Li Nong couldn't help but say such words. "I like it very much. Can you let me touch it again?" In the past, Li Nong was on the same side as the gods on the god continent. However, Li Nong was talented and had a low status. Those gods never gave Li Nong face and didn't even want to talk to him. If Li Nong was talented and had a low status, those gods would probably rush to talk to Li Nong. After all, to them, standing together with a piece of trash could highlight their status and nobility. In the god continent, Li Nong was isolated, which meant that he didn't have much contact with the gods, let alone female gods. Li Nong didn't even know that it was common sense not to touch a woman's buttocks. However, Gu Nianji, who called herself a matchmaker in the Yulong continent, knew. What did you say? Gu Nianji first hugged her chest with her hands, then suddenly realized that Li Nong wanted to touch her buttocks. She then put her hands under her waist to protect her buttocks. Then, she looked at Li Nong with a covetous expression, as if to say, if you dare touch my buttocks, I will definitely teach you a lesson. Pervert. I'm telling you, if you dare touch a single hair on my head, I will never let you off. Gu Nianji protected her buttocks and shouted at Li Nong. Seeing Gu Nianji holding her buttocks as if she was protecting her life, Li Nong frowned and asked, Why? Why? Why are you still asking why? Are all the gods on the god continent so shameless? Shameless. Gu Nianji's cheeks were red. She looked at Li Nong and shouted these words with a red face. As she spoke, Gu Nianji wanted to turn around and walk around to get out of the shameless Li Nong's field of vision. Do you want to go to the divine continent? Suddenly, Li Nong's magnetic male voice sounded from behind Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji didn't turn around because she was attracted by the pleasant and magnetic voice, but because she heard what Li Nong said. She suddenly stopped in her tracks, then stuck her head out and slowly turned her head back to look at him. Facts proved that Li Nong's words were very tempting. Can you really take me to the divine continent? Gu Nianji couldn't help swallowing when she heard this and asked again. Yes. Li Nong nodded. One had to know that to the people of the myriad continents, going to the gods' continent was their lifelong wish. After all, to the people of the myriad continents, the gods' continent was a place limited to legends. If they were able to travel around the gods' continent, some of the people on the myriad continents would die without regrets. Really? Are you telling the truth? Then bring me there quickly. Gu Nianji clasped her hands, which were covering her buttocks, and put them by her mouth. She pouted and looked at Li Nong with her little eyes blinking. Gu Nianji, who had just called herself sister, instantly turned into a little woman. My condition just now. Li Nong mentioned it. Gu Nianji clenched her fists and waved them in a place where Li Nong couldn't see. Then she said weakly, then I can only do it once. Once. As soon as Gu Nianji agreed softly, Li Nong, Chapter 2042. In order to go to Deity Continent, Gu Nianji had sold herself out. Of course, she was only selling herself out. It was just a touch, it was not like she would lose a piece of flesh. When she came back from visiting Deity Continent, she was going to beat this pervert to death. Sister Jian had actually taken in such a pervert as her disciple. At the same time, in the hotel hallway, Gu Nianji shut her eyes tightly as Li Nong wrapped his arms around her and placed his long hands on her butt. This pervert really dared to touch her butt. Gu Nianji was as red as an apple. Are you done? Gu Nianji covered her face, not daring to look at Li Nong. If she opened her eyes now, she would be able to gaze at Li Nong's chest. Right now, Gu Nianji's face and Li Nong's chest were only separated by her hand. Gu Nianji's hand was pressed against Li Nong's chest. Li Nong's chest was facing Gu Nianji as he wrapped his arm around her waist and placed his hand on her butt. Just as Gu Nianji urged Li Nong to stop and even pushed him away to tell him that it was enough, Li Nong's hand on Gu Nianji's butt grabbed. Gu Nianji cried out involuntarily. When she reacted, she pushed Li Nong away and looked at him in disbelief with a flushed face. I already said it's only for a while. How could you? Very soft, Li Nong commented. Gu Nianji's face flushed again. All right, hurry up and take me to Deity Continent. Gu Nianji said. Not now. Li Nong tilted his head and turned his handsome side profile in front of Gu Nianji. You're going back on your word. Gu Nianji was still embarrassed. Li Nong turned his head and presented his handsome face to Gu Nianji. The next second, he didn't say anything. He walked over and grabbed Gu Nianji's hand. Not long after, he brought Gu Nianji back to her hotel room. The venue of the gathering where Jiang City's top gang had sent out invitations. Yun Jian and Shen Ji had just arrived at a spacious area. The people who had followed Yun Jian and Shen Ji also followed them here. Shen Ji had just arrived, and Yun Jian was still following. Suddenly, Shen Ji grabbed his sword and swung it at Yun Jian. When the agents fought, every move was fatal. As a special agent, what they learned was nothing more than how to kill a person in the fastest way possible. It didn't matter if it was an assassination or a dirty trick, as long as he could kill the other party, it was fine. He watched as Yun Jian and Shen Ji walked into the open space and started fighting before they even said anything. Everyone who came over to take a look was stunned. F***ck. He actually attacked without saying anything. Are these two women even human? His attack speed is so fast. He must have learned some martial arts. The surrounding boys broke out in a cold sweat as they watched Yun Jian and Shen Ji fight. At that moment, Yun Jian quickly gave Shen Ji 10 moves. The real battle between the two had only just begun. What's going on? Song Fan, who was walking over with his old friends, asked when he saw Yun Jian and Shen Ji fighting. They said they're going to fight to see who wins, someone replied to Song Fan. As the leader of a gang in Jiangqing, Song Fan couldn't help but observe Yun Jian and Shen Ji seriously. He watched as Yun Jian started to attack after defending for 10 moves. Look at her. That girl's going to fight back. I heard she's the president of the martial arts club. Something interesting is about to happen, aha. Someone couldn't help but get excited when he saw this. But just as everyone's excited voices died down, Yun Jian and Shen Ji's figures went from the initial quick exchange to the speed at which they exchanged moves so fast that they couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Seeing this scene, everyone's jaws dropped. Just as everyone's hearts tightened, Yun Jian had already used her butterfly knife to deflect Shen Ji's long sword. Shen Ji's long sword was flung dozens of meters away. Then, she moved sideways and circled behind Shen Ji. At the same time, Yun Jian's butterfly knife was pressed against Shen Ji's back, where his heart was. You lost. Yun Jian's crisp voice echoed throughout the arena. Yun Jian and Shen Ji had only been fighting for a minute. When experts fought, every move was fatal. The stronger they were, the faster they exchanged moves. Even though it was only a minute, Yun Jian and Shen Ji had already exchanged hundreds of moves. Neither of them showed any mercy. Anyone who could exchange hundreds of moves with Yun Jian was undoubtedly the best in the world. Ha, 006, 2 years have passed. You're even stronger than before. Shen Ji chuckled with Yun Jian's butterfly knife pressed against his back. You've improved a lot too. Yun Jian sheathed her knife. If 2 years isn't enough, then 10 years. 006, I'll definitely surpass you. Shen Ji said as he walked towards his long sword. He planned to pick it up and leave. Yun Jian admired Shen Ji's unyielding spirit. She looked at Shen Ji's back and said in front of everyone, whether it's 10 years or 20 years, I'll be waiting. But as always, you'll always be my defeated opponent. Shinji snorted and bent down to pick up his sword. However, at that moment, a middle-aged man standing next to Song Fan suddenly pointed at Shinji's sword and said in a trembling voice, "That sword. That sword. The mark on the sword. Song Fan, could it be that the woman your son is fighting with is Shura Shinji, number 2 on the assassin ranking? Legend has it that Shura Shinji has only ever taken one person as her opponent. That person is Slaying God, number 1 on the international secret agent ranking. That girl, could it be, a..." Chapter 2043. Could that young lady be the legendary number 1 on the international secret agent ranking, the one who shakes the world with her name, Slaying God? The middle-aged man standing next to Song Fan spoke in a voice that everyone present could hear clearly. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present was shocked. What? The number 1 on the international secret agent ranking? Mo Lianhua's eyes were wide open as she stared at Yun Jian in disbelief. She did not know what the number 1 on the international secret agent ranking signified. However, Mo Lianhua, Song Yu, Mo Bufan, and everyone else did not see wrongly. The middle-aged man standing next to Song Fan gulped when he heard the word Slaying God. Just the mention of that name was enough to make him tremble in fear. After he said the word Slaying God, he took 2 big steps back because he suspected that Yun Jian was that person. He hid himself in a corner before he dared to say the 2 words that sent chills down his spine. Uncle Zhang. What did you say? Song Yu's expression changed when he heard what the middle-aged man said. He looked at the middle-aged man and asked loudly in front of everyone. The middle-aged man whom Song Yu called Uncle Zhang was the one who had pointed out Yun Jian's identity in front of everyone. Uncle Zhang was an old friend of Song Yu's father, Song Fan. At the same time, he was also a big shot in the black market. Usually, when Song Yu was by Song Fan's side, he always saw this Uncle Zhang as solemn and dignified. Even if someone greeted him, Uncle Zhang was a calm and composed person who would only nod slightly. However, he saw something in Uncle Zhang's expression just now. Song Yu saw Uncle Zhang, who had always been calm and composed, show a frightened expression just now. That was enough to prove that the number 1 on the international secret agent ranking, Slaying God, was a terrifying existence. Yun Jian, who was a distance away, did not expect anyone to recognize Shinji's saber. Shinji's saber had been with her for more than 10 years. Moreover, the saber was engraved with her unique Ji character, which could not be imitated by outsiders. Seeing the saber was like seeing the number 2 assassin on the international assassin ranking, Shinji. One had to know one thing. The 3 survivors from Enhun back then, Slaying God, Shinji, and Mad Dragon, were all top figures on the international secret agent assassin chart. Yun Jian aside, Shinji was ranked 2nd on the assassin ranking. Her strength was shocking, and her completion rate of missions was second only to Yun Jian. She was also an existence that made people panic just by hearing her name. Mad Dragon, ranked 3rd on the International Secret Service rankings, codenamed God of War. Mad Dragon was famous for his strength. He wasn't much weaker than Yun Jian and Shinji. But in terms of speed, Yun Jian was better than him, and it was because of this that Mad Dragon would never be able to surpass Yun Jian. There was no doubt that the 3 men who had survived in Hun were the top assassins on the international secret agent ranking list. This was also the reason why Hun had such an important position in this world. What? Old Zhang, what did you say? Shinji, the number 2 assassin in the world. Slaying God, the number 1 on the international secret agent ranking. How is this possible? They're so young, how could they be such terrifying figures? Even Song Fan revealed a frightened and surprised expression in front of everyone. That's impossible, but that's saber. Uncle Zhang immediately shook his head, refuting Yun Jian and Shen Ji's terrifying identities in front of everyone. But he couldn't figure it out. If Shen Ji wasn't the legendary number 2 assassin on the assassin ranking list, then why? Why would she have this saber? Shen Ji saw Song Fan, Uncle Zhang, and the rest's terrified expressions, as well as the surrounding students' pale faces. She laughed out loud, and when she saw that everyone's expressions became even more panicked, she found it amusing and admitted her identity in front of everyone. Ha ha ha, since you've seen it, I won't hide it from you. That's right, I am, a... Because the two of them, ever since Yun Jian was 5 years old in her previous life, they had regarded each other as mortal enemies. With the intention of surpassing each other, they progressed together and became the top existence that countless people could not touch. Let's work together and grow together. On the other side, Gu Nianji, who had been dragged into her hotel room by Li Nong, refused to go in no matter what. In the end, Li Nong simply carried her in horizontally. Why are you letting go of me? Don't think you can bully me just because you're a god. Sister Xiaoxin will tell my sister Jian to deal with you. You didn't do what you promised me. Gu Nianji struggled, but Li Nong threw her face down onto the bed. By then, the door was already closed. However, she felt a pair of perverted hands caressing and even scratching her buttocks from behind her waist. Li Nong's calm but infuriating voice came from behind Gu Nianji. It was not asking for Gu Nianji's permission but directly taking action, acting first and reporting later. You're from myriad continents. It's not easy to stay in deity continent. For your safety, I'll protect you as long as you let me touch you again, a. Chapter 2045. As he said that, Li Nong grabbed another handful in a righteous manner. Ah! Ah! Don't grab me again, I'm begging you. I'm begging you, please. Gu Nianji was pressed against the bed with her stomach facing down. Li Nong was using his slender right leg to block her legs, and his hands continued to grab her. Pervert. Shameless. I still have to get married in the future. How can I get married like this? Ah, you pervert. Gu Nianji was being ravaged. Because her back was facing the ceiling, her legs were pinned down. Gu Nianji raised her head and tried to use the strength of her shoulders to arch up. But she was no match for Li Nong. Although they were on Earth and couldn't use the spiritual power of the mainland, Li Nong was much stronger than Gu Nianji. It was clear that Li Nong didn't completely rely on spiritual power on the divine continent. He also added a lot of requirements for physique and physical fitness. So Gu Nianji was naturally no match for him. Gu Nianji shouted, I still have to get married in the future. How can I get married like this? Li Nong's hand, which had been on Gu Nianji's butt, froze. Li Nong froze. Get married. She still had to get married. Gu Nianji turned her head and saw that Li Nong froze when he heard what she said. She gathered her strength and raised her head to push Li Nong away forcefully. Then she quickly stood up and turned around to glare fiercely at Li Nong before running out the door. Just as she ran out the door, Li Nong caught her hand again. What are you doing? I'm starving. I'm going to eat. Gu Nianji felt wronged when she said this. She hadn't even eaten dinner, and this pervert was touching her all over. I'll take you to eat. Li Nong didn't mess around this time. He grabbed Gu Nianji's hand and took her downstairs to eat like a boy in love. On Yun Jian's end. After Shen Ji left, everything seemed to return to its original calm. After that, nothing major happened. However, everyone still stuck to their original plan and played a round of balloon shooting, darts and other games. Yunjian didn't participate. Instead, she stood beside Zhu Huili and taught her how to shoot and throw darts. Yunjian, you also know how to shoot and throw darts. At this moment, Mo Bufan could no longer use the word worship to describe his reverence towards Yunjian. He moved to Yunjian's side and spoke with great respect. This was an affirmative statement. He didn't suspect that Yunjian knew how to play games like guns and darts. Yunjian merely pursed her lips indifferently. With Yunjian's guidance, Zhu Huili managed to hit a medium-sized doll. Out of a dozen shots, he only missed once. Zhu Huili had never hit so many balloons before. When he got the big doll, Zhu Huili jumped excitedly and hugged Yunjian's neck. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. In the end, until the end of the party, nothing else happened that was worth mentioning. Yunjian and Mo Bufan left in the opposite direction. Song Yu was staring fixedly at Yunjian's slender figure, unable to return to his senses for a long time. Mo Lianhua stood to the side and watched as Song Yu stared fixedly at Yunjian. She couldn't help but feel angry. Song Yu didn't give up his pursuit of Yunjian. Mo Lianhua didn't dare to stop Song Yu now, but she had the urge to kill Yunjian. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. About half a month had passed since that day's party. On this day, Mo Bufan, as the vice president of the martial arts club, received news that Jiangxing City would hold a martial arts competition soon. Anyone who was a fan of martial arts could sign up. Because it wasn't a competition sponsored by the school, but an event organized by Jiangxing City, the school's martial arts club had the freedom to participate. However, Mo Bufan would lead everyone to participate in this martial arts competition every year. Moreover, the opponents of their martial arts club weren't people from society. They were martial arts clubs from other schools. At this time, Yunjian was standing in the martial arts club and speaking to the members. On the eve of the martial arts competition, I will strengthen your training these days, eh? Chapter 2046. In the past, Mo Bufan would lead the members of the martial arts club to strengthen their training whenever the competition was about to begin. However, the person leading the martial arts club this year was not Mo Bufan, but Yunjian. Yunjian's words were echoed by most of the members of the martial arts club. For the competition, we're not afraid of any hardship or exhaustion. President, please increase the difficulty of our training. That's right. This time, we must trample the members of the martial arts club from Eastern University under our feet. Ha! With the president around, there won't be a problem. Last year, the martial arts club from Eastern University won first place, the Green Bull gang from Dragon City University won second place, and we're only third. Now that the president of the Green Bull gang has been killed by the president, as long as we defeat the martial arts club from Eastern University, the first place will belong to us. After Yunjian finished speaking, the members of the martial arts club were in high spirits. The atmosphere at the scene was soon hyped up. Everyone in the martial arts club had witnessed Yunjian's skills and strength. At that time, their admiration and trust for Yunjian had been deeply ingrained in the hearts of the members of the martial arts club. I'll sign up for the martial arts competition tomorrow. In addition, the martial arts club that signs up for this year's competition needs to provide a club name. Everyone, think about what kind of club name our martial arts club should provide. At that time, Mo Bufan held a martial arts competition form in his hand and spoke to the crowd. How about the Invincible Gang? Isn't this name loud enough? Immediately, a boy mischievously said. Pfft. Invincible Gang. What's the difference between that and the Green Bull Gang? Our martial arts club can't have such a tacky name. It's degrading our status. The members of the martial arts club discussed animatedly. Why don't we ask the president to help us come up with a name? Zhou Huntao blinked and looked at Yunjian. Yes, yes. Let the president do it. The president is the spiritual pillar of our club now. That's right. Immediately, someone agreed with Zhou Huntao. At that time, Yunjian, who was surrounded by everyone, blinked her eyes. Are you sure you want me to come up with a name? Seeing this, Yun raised her eyebrows slightly and said. Yes, yes. President, you're the best. A boy named Zhou Dun looked at Yunjian and shouted. Zhou Dun was the fattest boy in the martial arts club. His body was like a meatball, and he walked unsteadily. He was a typical fat guy. As soon as Zhou Dun finished speaking, no one had any objections. Thus, everyone handed the name of the martial arts club to Yunjian. Bang! At this moment, the mysterious door outside the martial arts club was kicked open. The person walked in angrily. After taking a few things from the martial arts club, she left angrily. Senior Huiling. Senior Sister Huiling is back. Where are you going, Senior Huiling? The person who returned was Kai Huiling. Kai Huiling was the third-year senior. Yunjian had pushed Zhu Huili when she first entered the university. Later, Yunjian had stepped on her. Kai Huiling entered the martial arts society because of Mo Bufan. Since she was stepped on by Yunjian in public last time, Kai Huiling had not appeared in school or the martial arts club for a long time. Kai Huiling, who appeared at that time, glared at Yunjian fiercely and said to everyone, I want to leave the club. This kind of person is the president of our martial arts club. Sooner or later, she will be finished. Mo Bufan, you will regret it. Kai Huiling closed her eyes and shouted angrily at Mo Bufan. Then, she turned around and ran away. She was probably still expecting Mo Bufan to chase her back. Many girls who still stayed in the martial arts club had a good relationship with Kai Huiling. But at that time, when they saw Kai Huiling run out after saying those words to Yunjian, no one chased after her. Senior Sister Huiling is really too much this time. Yes. Our new president is really amazing. Anyway, this time, I will definitely stand on our new president's side. After Kai Huiling left, the girls in the martial arts club still turned to Yunjian's side. This was Yunjian's charm. At that time, Yunjian had already become the god in the eyes of the boys and girls in the martial arts club without her saying anything. Shrine. Just when everyone was talking about what Kai Huiling said before she ran away, Yunjian suddenly raised her red lips and said in public. Is this the name of our martial arts club? Mo Bufan heard it and asked Yunjian on behalf of everyone. However, Yunjian, who was standing in front of everyone, nodded. The slightly raised red arc deepened again. She pursed her lips and explained in public why the club was named Shrine. The god of Jiangqing, the only club. Therefore, Shrine. A. Chapter 2047. The God of Rivertown, the only club. The God of Rivertown belonged to the martial arts club led by Yunjian. The words that came out of Yunjian's mouth made everyone present unable to calm down. Shrine. This was a name that did not allow for defeat. Whether it was in the martial arts club or in other fields, as long as the shrine was led by Yunjian, then it was not allowed to fail. First place belonged to none other than them. It took a long time for everyone to recover from the shock of Yunjian's words. At that time, they all felt sluggish for a moment. These two words gave everyone a feeling of supremacy and supremacy. I, the unique and righteous. Good. Good name. Our martial arts club will be called Shrine in the future. The God of Rivertown, the only club. These 8 words will be the slogan of our shrine. After Mo Bufan heard this, there was a rush of excitement in his heart. In front of everyone, he repeated the name that Yun Jian had given and the meaning behind it. At that time, after hearing Mo Bufan's words, everyone's heart was boiling with excitement. Okay. Listen to the president. Whatever the president says. Everyone agreed unanimously. Unknowingly, everyone in the martial arts club had already regarded Yun Jian as the core. The martial arts club's competition is about 1.5 months later. Now that there is still 1.5 months for us to train, we must strengthen our training progress. In this 1.5 months, as long as you are free, come to the martial arts club. Work hard and think about the competition. If you get first place in the competition, there will be a reward of 30,000 yuan. If you can get this reward, it will be divided equally among everyone. So, everyone, work hard for 1.5 months. Come on. Mo Bufan encouraged everyone for a while. In fact, Mo Bufan's family was so rich that it was naturally impossible for them to lack this 30,000 yuan. On the contrary, this martial arts club could be set up by Mo Bufan himself. Otherwise, the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China did not have any extra space to provide for the martial arts club. Mo Bufan really liked martial arts. There is a reward. Haha. My motivation is here again. The first place of this martial arts competition belongs to our shrine. Sure enough, when they heard that there was a reward, everyone's fighting spirit became stronger. In the next few days, the members of the martial arts club really worked hard. Whatever Yun Jian said, they did it. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. At the end of November, the weather had become very cold. In places like Jiang City where winter came earlier, many students had already put on thick cotton-padded jackets. At the end of the month, the school arranged exams. Yun Jian left the exam hall early after she was done with her question. University was different from junior high and high school. If you left after you finished your paper, the teacher wouldn't say anything. At most, the teacher would ask you if you were sure you wanted to hand in your paper. She was wearing a light blue down jacket. It was an ordinary piece of clothing, but it accentuated her figure. At the same time, Yun Jian shoved her phone and both her hands into her pockets as she made her way to the university gate. He had just sent her a message. He was waiting for her at the entrance of the university. Yun Jian was stopped by Song Yu, who had just come from the University of the East, when Yun Jian walked out of the gate. Yun Jian. As he spoke, Song Yu ran to Yun Jian with a rose in each hand. Ever since the gathering, Song Yu had been sending roses to Yun Jian every day without missing a single day. However, Yun Jian never paid attention to it, let alone accepted it. Mo Lianhua watched Song Yu run towards Yun Jian. She was in a daze and was supported by Pan Qian. This little b*tch. She doesn't accompany her rich, short, and fat boyfriend. She seduces Mr. Song every day. She's two-timing. Disgusting. Pan Qian said angrily after supporting Mo Lianhua. However, just as Pan Qian finished speaking, she suddenly saw Song Yu happily walk to Yun Jian's side. But then, a handsome man arrived in front of Yun Jian before Song Yu. After that, the handsome man wrapped his arm around Yun Jian's slim waist and shot a murderous glance at Song Yu, who was holding a bouquet of roses in his hand and looked pathetic in comparison to him. Such a handsome man. He hugged Yun Jian's slender waist in front of everyone. Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian were drooling. Who was he? How could there be such a handsome man in this world? Who are you? Why are you hugging my woman? Song Yu saw Ce suddenly appear. He looked at Yun Jian angrily and shouted at Ce. He looked as if he had already won Yun Jian's heart. Your woman. Ce frowned when he heard it. When did my wife become your woman? Ce hugged Yun Jian's slender waist tighter. Wife? Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian, who were far away, exclaimed in shock. No, that's impossible. Are you Yun Jian's short, fat boyfriend? Song Yuk shook his head in disbelief. He was short, fat, and fat. Ce's handsome brows creased slightly. Before Song Yuk could react, Ce was already smiling. After showing off his and Xiao Jian's marriage certificate in Country R, Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian were shocked. Ce took out the pregnancy test he had taken from the hospital last time. There was an error on the pregnancy test, but the words, pregnancy confirmed, were still there. Ce held the pregnancy test between his slender fingers and showed it to Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian. Then, while Song Yu and Pan Qian looked like they had eaten *T, Ce continued his lie that was so thick-skinned that even a gun could not penetrate. Xiao Jian is already pregnant with my child, eh? Chapter 2048. Yun Jian glanced at the pregnancy test slip in Ce's hand and blushed. She did not expect him to hide the paper. Yun Jian had a bad feeling that this piece of paper might very well replace the Country R marriage certificate. No, that's impossible. This has to be fake. It's fake. Song Yuk shook his head as he held the rose in his hand. Yun Jian, I made a love circle with 99 roses for you the last time and sent you roses every day for so many days. I can swear to the heavens that I love you. How can you not understand my love for you? Song Yu looked at Yun Jian as if Yun Jian had betrayed him and gotten together with Ce. Yun Jian's lips curled into a scornful smirk. The man had even placed a love circle with 99 roses for Xiao Jian. Ce, who was not that jealous just now, was instantly envious. Ce had no intention of killing Song Yu just now, but Ce's brows were furrowed as a murderous intent spread from Ce. Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian could not help feeling a chill run down their spines. Before Ce could make a move, Yun Jian had already wrapped her arms around Ce's chest. Her head could only reach Ce's chin as Yun Jian pressed the side of her face against Ce's chest. The scene was so loving that Song Yu could not take his eyes off it. That was not all. Yun Jian did it in front of Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian, who had initially said that Ce was a short, chubby rich kid and was now dumbfounded. She tiptoed and raised her hand to grab Ce's collar like a kitten scratching an itch, causing Ce to bend down. She, on the other hand, brought her red lips to Ce's and offered a kiss in front of everyone. After a light peck, Yun Jian pressed the side of her face against Ce's chest again. After the action that was more intimate than a couple's, Yun Jian cooperated with Ce and said something that nearly angered the trio. We're already married. Love is a matter between husband and wife. It's reasonable even if I'm pregnant. What's wrong with that? Yun Jian spoke smoothly. Ce, who could feel Yun Jian's face pressing against his chest, broke into a smile when he heard her words. His Xiao Jian knew how to say something so touching too. The words love between a man and a woman, matters between husband and wife, and pregnancy struck Song Yu's heart like a thunderclap. Mo Lianhua had long forgotten that Song Yu was pursuing Yun Jian. She kept her eyes on Ce, unable to believe that this man who was more handsome than any man who walked out of a comic was Yun Jian's boyfriend. The legendary short and fat man. Pan Qian was rooted to the spot in shock as well. Could someone tell her why Yun Jian's boyfriend was so handsome? No, handsome was not even the word to describe him. He was so handsome that it was impossible to find a second person like him in this world. His handsome face that looked like it was sculpted with chiseled features was flawless. When he stood next to Yunjian, one was handsome while the other was as beautiful as jade. There was no flaw to pick out. Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian were envious of the scene. Even so, there's no one more compatible than us in this world. Yunjian, you have to be mine. Look, you're from the bloody world too. So am I. My dad's the boss of River City's top mafia group. Come with me, I won't despise you. Even if you're pregnant with someone else's child, you just have to abort it. Even after listening to Shinji's words and knowing this now, Song Yu refused to let go. As he spoke, Song Yu reached out to grab Yunjian's wrist. However, before his hand could touch Yunjian, he was sent flying more than 10 meters away with a kick. The one who did it was undoubtedly Ce. After sending Song Yu flying more than 10 meters away with a kick, Ce's murderous intent flared. He glared coldly at Song Yu, who was about to spit blood, and warned him icily. Song Yu, who had fallen to the ground, was so shocked that his heart was pounding. How dare you covet my woman? The top mafia group in River City, huh? Very well, your father's gang is now in an Hun group's must-kill list, eh? Chapter 2049. Ce's words were like the summons of the King of Hell. His voice reached Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian's ears. Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian almost screamed when they saw Ce's kick. So handsome. They had never seen a man as handsome as Ce in their lives. When Song Yu was sent flying with a kick just now, Ce had done it with half of his arm around Yunjian. Ce's words almost made Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian scream like love-struck girls. But in the end, they held it in. Mo Lianhua originally wanted to kill Yunjian because of Song Yu's confession to Yunjian. But now, Mo Lianhua didn't even want to look at Song Yu. If possible, she wanted to trade with Yunjian. However, unlike Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian, although Song Yu didn't participate in the matters of his father's gang, he had heard a lot about it from his father. In the underworld, the last people to provoke weren't international mafia bosses, nor were they international arms magnates. Compared to these two organizations, all the international mafia bosses and international arms magnates had to step aside. And these two organizations were in Hun Organization and Kosha mercenaries. Anyone who provoked these two forces would be standing directly on top of a coffin, separated from the Grim Reaper by a distance of 0 meters. Song Yu was no stranger to an Hun Organization's must-kill list. Song Yu's father, Song Fan, had warned Song Yu in a very strict manner that anyone who was listed on an Hun Organization's must-kill list would become a wanted criminal of an Hun Organization. In the future, as long as an Hun Organization's assassins or secret agents saw them, they would directly eliminate the wanted person or organization with a bounty. One had to know that an Hun Organization's assassins and secret agents had the ability to wipe out a gang. When Song Yu first heard this, he was so scared that his face turned green and purple. He even swore that he would never provoke an Hun Organization in his life. But what did he just hear? He actually heard Ce say that his father's gang was already listed on an Hun Organization's must-kill list. My Hun Organization. Ce's words made Song Yu's eyes widen. Why you're from the Hun Organization? Song Yu was sent flying more than 10 meters away. At this moment, he didn't have time to get angry, nor did he have time to cover the place where he was hurt. He stared at Ce with wide eyes. Although Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian didn't know what was going on when they saw how fearful Song Yu was of the Hun Organization, they were even more mesmerized by Ce's handsomeness. At that moment, Mo Sen, who was standing not far away, walked over from the side. Young master, the *1 gang in Rivertown has been added to the must-kill list. Mo Sen did as he was told when he heard Ce's words. Ce shifted her gaze from Song Yu to Yunjian. Then, in front of Song Yu and the others, he took Yunjian's small hand and turned to leave. Song Yu was completely paralyzed on the ground. Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian wanted to chase after him, but they were frightened by Mo Sen's fierce eyes. At the same time, Ce was holding Yunjian's hand as they walked down the street. Xiao Jian, why are your hands so cold? Ce asked softly as he felt Yunjian's icy hands. Yunjian adjusted the light blue down jacket she was wearing and answered, I just finished my test paper in the classroom. She had been holding a pen when she was doing her test paper. Of course, her hands were cold in this wintry weather. Ce frowned slightly at that and pulled Yunjian to a milk tea shop without another word to order a cup of milk tea for Yunjian to warm her hands. Before the milk tea was ready, Ce held Yunjian's small hand in his large one to keep Yunjian warm. The shop owner passed the milk tea to Ce and quickly passed the hot milk tea to Yunjian to warm up her cold hands. The shop owner could not help exclaiming at the sight. Young man, there aren't many college students who spoil their girlfriends like you. The shop owner thought that Ce would be smug about how he spoiled his girlfriend, but instead, Ce frowned and explained in annoyance, my girlfriend isn't my girlfriend. We're married. She's my wife, eh? Chapter 2050. Ce was upset when he heard the milk tea shop owner say that Yunjian was only his girlfriend. When the milk tea shop owner heard Ce's explanation, his expression froze for a moment. Then, he immediately put on an I know everything attitude. He didn't believe that Ce and Yunjian were married. However, the shop owner believed that Ce completely doted on Yunjian. The weather was so cold that it felt like winter. The passers-by on the street didn't even want to take their hands out of their pockets. However, Ce used his large palms to warm Yunjian's icy cold hands. When the milk tea was ready, he immediately handed it to her. The shop owner was experienced and had a wife whom he loved deeply. He nodded with a smile. Although he believed that Ce and Yunjian's marriage was fake, he still nodded as though he believed it. He looked at Yunjian and couldn't help but sigh. Miss, you have a husband who loves you deeply. Since you're a couple, then live well together. Hee, play when it's time to play, and study hard when it's time to study. The shop owner looked kindly at Yunjian and Ce as he exhorted them. The shop owner thought that Yunjian and Ce were both university students and that he was only in his 40s. However, his kind expression made him seem like an old man in his 50s or 60s who was carefully exhorting the younger generation. When Yunjian heard the shop owner's words, she was stunned. However, her red lips curled up slightly. You old thing, there's a mountain of customers behind us. You're going to make me busy. Hurry up and help us. The shop owner's wife was busy making the milk tea and fried chicken. She was too busy to handle everything. She gently pulled the shop owner's ear and yelled at him in a playful tone. After being yelled at by his in-laws, the shop owner happily waved goodbye to Yunjian and Ce and went back to work. The lady boss was fierce to her husband, but when she saw Yunjian and Ce, she nodded and smiled before continuing with her work. In this era, milk tea franchises were not popular yet. The business of this milk tea shop was very good, but the words on the shop sign indicated that the milk tea shop had not joined. The Zhang family's husband and wife milk tea shop. After that, Ce didn't say anything. He pulled Yunjian away and returned to his and Yunjian's cozy room. Ce had bought a luxurious suite in Rivertown. Whenever he was free to come to Rivertown, Yunjian would move out of her dormitory and stay there. In college, there were many girls who went out with their boyfriends at night. No one would know that Yunjian was not in the dormitory. So, softer. Yun Jian bit Siyi's fleshless shoulder as Siyi did the shameful thing to her. At the same time, both of them were staying in the luxurious suite that Siyi bought to make it easier for him to meet Yun Jian. The orange light in the room shone down. It was dim but not cool. In spite of it, Yun Jian could see clearly what Siyi was doing on top of her. Even when he was doing this kind of thing, his handsome face didn't have the slightest change in expression. If it were not for the fact that Siyi was naked, Yun Jian would have thought that she was the only one who was doing something so perverted. Siyi was so forceful that Yun Jian almost could not hold it in and wanted to cry out, but she swallowed it back into her stomach. It was embarrassing enough to do something like this. If she cried out again, where would her dignity go? Xiao Jian, cry out if you can't hold it in. Siyi tightened his grip and arched his handsome face. Yun Jian pressed her face against his shoulder, too shy to look at him. Xiao Jian, you don't have to hold it in front of me. Be good and cry out, Siyi said, the curve of his handsome face deepening. Then, he bit Yun Jian's ear. Yun Jian went limp and numb. Unable to hold it in any longer, she moaned shyly. A. Chapter 2051. Yun Jian, who had been forced to scream by Siyi, couldn't hold it in anymore. Of course, this was the result of Siyi's hard work. At that time, it had been more than 20 days since Li Nong had promised to take Gu Nianji to the Divine Continent. After Li Nong had taken Gu Nianji to a small restaurant to eat, he hadn't done anything else. He hadn't taken Gu Nianji to the Divine Continent. Of course, it wasn't that he had broken his promise, but that Li Nong had just arrived on Earth and didn't plan to go back yet. But at that moment, Gu Nianji angrily knocked on Li Nong's door. Li Nong, who was dressed in formal clothes, opened the door. After seeing Gu Nianji standing behind the door without anyone noticing, Li Nong's eyes lit up slightly. Hey, kid. Where are you playing with your sister? It's been almost a month. Why haven't you taken me to the Divine Continent? Let me tell you, if you don't take me to the Divine Continent, I'll follow you all the time in the future and won't leave. I'll guard you until you take me to the Divine Continent. Otherwise, don't even think about walking out of this door. Gu Nianji straightened her body and spread her legs and hands like a spider. She had an expression that said, if you don't promise me, I won't leave. Are you sure you'll follow me wherever I go? Li Nong raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard Gu Nianji's words. He suddenly looked down and met Gu Nianji's eyes. A sly and deep smile appeared on his handsome face. When Gu Nianji saw this sly and deep smile, she took a deep breath. Then she looked at Li Nong again. Why did she feel that something was wrong? However, Gu Nianji didn't think too much about it. She nodded at Li Nong, then laughed and stretched out her hand. Yes. Yes, I'll follow you wherever you go. I'll annoy you to death. You pervert, you're still going back on your word. Then let's go. Li Nong didn't wait for Gu Nianji to finish speaking. He grabbed Gu Nianji's wrist and closed the door of his hotel room. He dragged Gu Nianji out of the hotel. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you taking me out? Gu Nianji tried to break free from Li Nong's grip, but Li Nong took her and ran. Gu Nianji wasn't like this before. At that time, Gu Nianji kept calling herself sister because she wanted to pretend to be a big brother in front of Li Nong. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter where you take me. I won't listen to you. In order to show her determination, Gu Nianji patted her chest and said to Li Nong. Let's eat. Li Nong's lips curved into a smile when he heard Gu Nianji's solemn vow. Aren't you going? He added. Gu Nianji gulped when she heard the word eat. She was about to say no, but she changed her mind. Even after eating, I won't forgive you. You have to take me to the divine continent. Okay, Li Nong replied quickly this time. After he finished speaking, he pulled Gu Nianji towards the restaurant. Gu Nianji, who was so focused on eating, didn't realize that someone was holding her hand and didn't let go the whole way. At the same time, after they were done, Ce carried Yunjian, who was limp and weak, into the bathroom to wash her. At first, Ce really did wash Yunjian carefully for her. I'll get up first. Take your time. Yunjian wanted to get up first after soaking in the bathtub for so long. Who knew that just as Yunjian stood up, Ce, who scanned the beautiful scenery around them, knew to pin Yunjian down in the bathtub. Xiao Jian, you're so beautiful. Ce scanned Yunjian without any obstacles. What the gaze meant was obvious. Yunjian could tell at a glance after being with Ce for so long. The 666 days of the divine spring surfaced in Yunjian's mind. Don't do it here. Yunjian blushed shyly, revealing her girlish face that she only showed in front of him. Xiao Jian, I can't wait any longer. Ce's lips curved before he pushed her legs apart and went on a rampage in the water. Chapter 2052. Like a small boat gently brushing against the surface of the water, the two of them hugged each other endlessly. The night was still long. The room was filled with romance. Ce would visit Yunjian several times a month. Although Ce didn't visit her often during the first 2 months when she returned to Earth, Ce had become a habit. She would visit Yunjian 3 times a month and stay for 2 days each time. Of course, Ce would usually visit Yunjian during the weekend. After 2 days, Yunjian would go back to her dormitory. Zhu Huili was already used to Yunjian moving out for 2 days whenever Ce came. Of course, as long as Yunjian went back to her dormitory, Zhu Huili would go with Yunjian as usual. That afternoon, it was almost time for class. Yunjian and Zhu Huili went to the classroom first. Seeing Yunjian and Zhu Huili leave the dormitory, her roommate Shi Xiujuan went up to Miao Li and asked, Miao Li, did you ask Yunjian to go with you on purpose during the last gathering? Miao Li's eyes flickered when she heard Shi Xiujuan mention this. Although Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan were good friends, Miao Li didn't want Shi Xiujuan to know about this. Miao Li had secretly handed over the information to Song Yu behind everyone's back. What? When did I do that? Miao Li pretended not to know. Tisk, stop pretending. You didn't even tell me, you're a good friend. What do you mean? I just found 10,000 yuan in your bag. That's 10,000 yuan. If Song Yu didn't ask you to give it to him, could it be your own money? I know how much money your family has. Shi Xiujuan said with some dissatisfaction. Xiujuan, I didn't hide it from you on purpose. Song Yu forbade me from telling anyone else. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given me so much. Miao Li realized that her lie was exposed. She rolled her eyes and quickly thought of an excuse to cover up her lie. Well, I'm your friend. I'm happy for you. Shi Xiujuan was fooled. Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan didn't know that Yunjian was standing outside the dormitory. The soundproofing effect of the dormitory was quite good. The people inside the door usually couldn't hear the conversations of the people outside, and the people outside usually couldn't hear the conversations of the people inside the dormitory. But at that time, Yunjian heard the conversation between Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan clearly. Yunjian's deep eyes flickered slightly. A trace of coldness flashed across the corner of her mouth and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Seeing that Zhu Huili didn't notice her and stopped walking, Yunjian followed in 2 or 3 steps, as if she didn't notice anything. After the scheduled classes in the afternoon, the students all left the classroom. The head teacher, who hadn't appeared for a month, finally showed up. At this time, most of the students in the classroom had just left. A few were still in the classroom. Miss Yu, the head teacher who hadn't appeared for a long time, first waved at Yunjian and then walked over with a smile. "You're Yunjian, right?" Miss Yu was a female teacher in her 40s. She was about 1.55 meters tall. She wasn't tall, but she was quite well proportioned. It was obvious that she was married and had a child. Yunjian nodded and said calmly, "Yes." Seeing this, Miss Yu walked up to Yunjian with a smile. In front of some of the students in the classroom, she directly praised Yunjian. "You got first place in the freshman examination this time. Especially your English essay. Even our English professor was full of praise after reading it." Miss Yu praised her first. It should be known that ordinary students would have laughed happily after hearing the teacher's praise. They would be as happy as kindergartners who had received lollipops. However, Yunjian in front of her seemed to have expected this result. She replied calmly, "Yes." Miss Yu was stunned. She didn't expect Yunjian to have such an attitude. However, after being stunned for a while, Miss Yu wasn't overly shocked. She didn't continue to praise her. Instead, she directly stated her purpose for coming. "Miss Yunjian, the Normal University of Jiangxing next door wants to organize a volunteer teaching activity for college students in the countryside. Our school has a total of 4 places, and they will be given to the top student of each grade. This volunteer teaching activity is a rare opportunity. It lasts for a week. The purpose is to let college students experience some of the hardships of rural life and bring joy to the rural children during this week. Are you willing to represent our school to teach in the countryside for a week? You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.